inside, do you see your own? Let's flow now with all those pretty little things you buy and all those frowns and sighs different. Wake up to the sound of silence. Be still and know that I am here. Take my hand, I will hold you. I will wait for your tears. My grace is sufficient for you. My love will wash away the past. Lay your burdens on your shoulders. Though the trials will pass, be still and know. Walking down a road, all alone, turned away from home. Why do you, dear, insist on trying to do things on your own when you're crying and screaming that it's all gone away, that you've been put to shame? When will you, dear, open your eyes? Or once I have, I will be here with you, with you, with you, with you. Wake up to the sound of silence. Be still and know that I am here. Take my hand, I will hold you. Wipe away all your tears. My grace is sufficient for you. My love will wash away the past. Lay your burdens on my shoulders. Know the trials will pass. Be still and know. Feel not, feel that I am with you. Be not afraid. Feel not, feel that I am with you. Be not afraid. Wake up to the sound of silence. Be still and know that I am here. Take my hand, I will hold you. Wipe away all your tears. My grace is sufficient for you. My love will wash away the past. Lay your burdens on my shoulders. Know the trials will pass. Be still and know. of silence. Be still and know that I am here. Take my hand, I will hold you. I will wait for your tears. My grace is sufficient for you. My love will wash away the past. Lay your burdens on your shoulders. No trials will pass. Be still and know. Walking down a road, all alone, turned away from home. Why do you, dear, insist on trying to do things on your own? When you're crying and screaming that it's all gone away, that you've been put to shame. When will you, dear, open your eyes? Or what's ahead? I will be here with you, with you, with you, with you. Wake up to the sound of silence. Be still and know that I am here. Take my hand, I will hold you. Wipe away all your tears. My grace is sufficient for you. My love will wash away the past. Lay your burdens on your shoulders. Know the trials will pass. Be still and know. Fear not, fear not, I am with you. Be not afraid. Fear not, fear not, I am with you. Be not afraid. Wake up to the sound of silence. Be still and know that I am here. Take my hand, I will hold you. Wipe away all your tears. My grace is sufficient for you. My love will wash away the past. Lay your burdens on my shoulders. Know the trials will pass. Be still and know.
Good evening, everybody.
You know what? It was at my end. It was delaying a little bit again.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know what's going on. I'm going to have to write to Melon, and I'm going to give Melon crap.
Yeah,
to be
you
honest,
should.
because I'm not liking it. Because sometimes what happens when it's delayed, it finishes at your end, and then there's a black screen, and then it catches up, and then I finally come on. So yeah, it's weird. So yeah, we have a good show today. Really looking forward to this show. I've been looking forward to this show all week, I have to be honest. And we do have some good news before we get into our guest. Do you want to do that, Lex, or do you want me to do it?
I suppose I'll kick it off. I think, yeah. Well, just first of all,
you want to start from the beginning, or you just want to get ready, say the name, and do it? You want to?
I'm starting. I've got a little speech first. This
okay. I'm sorry.
As most of you know, we've done this show for a year now, I think it is, and we've always wanted to this show to do extremely well. And thanks to you guys in the chat who watch us every week, this show has done really well, and you guys enjoy it, and we enjoy making this weekly for you. So we've been trying to find ways on how we can extend our reach into the stratosphere and get some more people into the show and more guests on, more people viewing. And after a couple of weeks of, I think Brian's had a few conversations with a fair few people, and we've finally found the solution. And so we can announce from today, from, I think, not today's episode, but from next Sunday, Through the Lens will also be streaming on all platforms that are hosted by DNTV. So congratulations to us.
What is that? Is that part of your speech? Oh my God.
Hey, self-gratification goes a long way. Pat myself on the back for my funniness. It's been a good road. But we do have, not just to say thank you to Brian for doing the show with me and getting us to where we are. I'd also like to say a massive thank you to Drew, who we are going to bring up in here to introduce you all to him. So yeah. Anything you would like to add to that?
You know what? For the last couple of weeks, I've been having meetings with a bunch of different people, and Lex, you were in one of those meetings, but I had a few meetings with a few other people, and it just felt like this was the best fit for us. And to be honest, I've known Drew for almost 3 years, so we just figured it was a fantastic fit. And we spoke to him on Friday and told him that we were happy to come over to DNTV, and he's excited and we're excited, and let's see what happens. But what I'm going to do right now, for a little bit of a surprise, we're going to bring up Drew, who's the owner of DNTV, but I'm also going to bring up another person as well. And I know a lot of you people know who this person is. She's actually the producer of this show, and she's helped us out a great deal. So I'm going to be bringing her up. And also she will be with us while we're interviewing Kenny, because her and Kenny are very good friends. And she can maybe put out any fires that happened during the show with Kenny. And I'm just kidding, Kenny. I'm kidding. I'm completely kidding. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up Drew. And he's giving the thumbs up right now. So, yeah. So I'm going to bring up Drew Lee Nichols, who's the owner of DNTV. And we want you guys to meet him. He's a great guy. He's a great friend. And he's got a great channel. So here is Drew. There he is. But just before you say anything, I'm going to bring up our producer for our show. And hopefully our producer for a long time. And that is Taryn. Hope. And there she is. And I'm not going. It's at your end.
It's mine. I don't even see me.
You don't even see you?
I don't see me. Oh, now I do on my phone. But wait. Let me go over here. Am I slow?
No, you're actually echoing. So you might have to put in some headphones.
I have them in.
Do you? That's weird. It's a big echo over here. Are you guys getting an echo?
Yeah.
I don't hear an echo.
Yeah. We're gonna have to put you down for a minute.
Echo.
Oh, I was about to.
We'll put you down for a minute, okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's definitely at her end. I don't know what's causing that echo, but what do you think?
But it's weird. When she was speaking, there's no echo. It's just us echoing when she was on.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, very strange.
There's a lot there's a lot. So anyways, here is Drew Lee Nichols from DNTV. Hello, Drew.
Hello. That was nice to be on here, guys. That was a good accent, I'm not gonna lie. That was pretty funny, actually. Hello. Thank you. Well, congratulations, guys.
Yeah, so what we wanted to do is we wanted to bring you up just so everybody knew who you were and where we're going and what Through the Lens can expect being on DNTV.
Do you know what I can expect? Amazing. A lot of entertainment. You guys going to be enjoying it. Shows as well. Also, DNTV works with a lot of Hollywood movie actors, producers, and some amazing actors, which I say state to by current state, it is a go ahead for a very, very big, important person. But you guys would be amazing for DNTV straight up.
So Kenny just told us that it's not Taryn, it's echoing. It's us that is echoing.
Yeah, but only when her camera was up here. We're not
yeah,
echoing
that's
anymore.
true. Also, we're not echoing anymore. Anyway, so basically, what we wanted to do, Drew, we wanted to bring you up for a couple of minutes and introduce you to everybody that watches our show, and definitely watches the replays, so they get to know who you are, and they can go over and subscribe to your channel, your Facebook page, and find out who you are, because you want to talk about your school a little bit before we let you go.
Yeah, I'll quickly tell you what it is. My business as a company, I run a Wiccan and Pagan Life Academy. So that's Phoenix and Stags Wiccan and Pagan Life Academy in the UK. On the full advanced training courses, I got learning herbalist. I got a qualification as an advanced master herbalist. Master herbalist, I got a safeguarding qualification by me, where you can come in a space and learn and have that coaching, and about really understanding history of that. Now taking advantage of it, you won't be taking a mick of it. It's about really for people who ain't got a confidence inside them to practice, and it's really nice. It's really nice to bring them along and act and support them, and aim a bit of future onto them. We also got possible sponsor. We're not going to leak the name sponsor yet, but we also got a possible sponsor. And we got a few people checking out the UK registered company, Phoenix and Stags and Wiccan Pagan Life Academy. But if you want to learn witchcraft, or you want to learn understanding of the history, or have someone to do herb stuff with, I'm sure we have literally got them qualifications, and we will help you as much as possible as we do to help others.
Cool. Well, we really appreciate you coming up today. I know you're a busy guy. And so, like I said a few seconds ago, we wanted to introduce you. We want people to go over to DNTV and follow their channel, and just say hi to Drew. And you have anything to add, Lex?
No, just that I'm looking forward to the possibilities of the future. And again, I just want to say thank you for putting us on the platform, and we're really hoping that we can deliver something special for you over the next few months.
I look forward to with you guys. It would be an honor to work with you guys. I'll be looking forward to that, Lex. Seriously.
Thank you very much, Drew. And we will talk in the next day or two because I have some stuff to send you. So
loads of stuff.
Yes, loads of stuff. So thank you again for coming up. You kind of froze on us there, okay. But that's okay. We can hear you, and that's all that matters. So starting next week, we will be broadcasting on DNTV. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and we're going to have a good time. And hopefully, like Lex said, we're going to help build your channel and help build our channel and just get what we're trying to do out there more, I guess, so to speak. Right, Lex?
Definitely, especially with the kind of episode we've got going out tonight. So it's going to be great.
Yeah. Okay, Drew, you have a great rest of the day or night, and we'll definitely talk soon. Okay.
Okay. Have a great night, guys. Enjoy, and
Thanks,
see you all soon. Bye-bye.
Yep.
I'm going to leave. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Wonderful.
So let me get. So that is going to be something different for us, I think, and it's going to be a good thing. And I'm looking forward to seeing what we can do for DNTV and what they can do for us, and hopefully build our show even bigger and better. And we'll see what happens, right? So.
Exactly. And I do love the fact that I will tell people this, that when we had the meeting with Drew to iron out some details and see where we stood, one of the things I had to ask was, how do you feel about me calling people a giant C word on your station? Because I've done that twice. So it was quite funny, but I'm definitely very excited.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. So before we get to Kenny, anything happened with you this week that you want to share or talk about?
Well, I don't know if I don't know if you tuned into the show over the last couple of weeks, but if any of you is following Huntophobia's pages, if they're following my pages, if they're following Portal to the Paranormal, if they're following GSI Paranormal, if they're following the Patrol, they might have seen a small TikTok video that we clipped around and shared everyone that the tour is almost upon us. We are just over 2 weeks away. So just keep your eyes peeled for that. We've got some great stuff coming for you. But that's been my week. I've been looking at what people are sending me in terms of locations and planning it. So I should be getting somewhere close to a final product in the next couple of days. But just wanted to say that thank you for sticking by us.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. Not a lot going on at my end, to be honest. Let me get rid of this.
I will also say thank you, Angelina, for. Can I say I don't know how Angelina remembers 2075, but every week she pops.
Yeah, that's
every week.
It seems to be a long-standing joke. I don't know what's going on with that. It was funny then. It's not so funny now, Angelina. Stop it.
Hey, I appreciate it. It shows that someone watches the show. So I enjoy it.
I'm only kidding. It was really funny. I'm just waiting for the shirts to come out. So maybe if the shirts come out when I get down there, you can give me a shirt. How about that?
My 2075 shirts.
Yeah. I'll wear it on the show here when I'm back in Canada. And let me just move this around. I'm kind of discombobbled today for some reason. I don't know why, but I thought I had everything set up, but I guess I didn't. So anyways, so you know what? Just to let everybody know while we're interviewing Kenny, I'm going to sit back. I'm going to look pretty. I'm going to allow Lex and Kenny to speak because they have a ton of stuff in common. So I want to see them go. I want to see what happens with this show. I'll get in there every so often, but I wanted to bring up Taryn first and see if because I think it was at her end, and you were right, Lex. The echo didn't start until she came up. So let's see if it's working. Yeah, you're echoing. It's something at your end. Let's see. No. So what we'll do? That's rough. Because I'm hearing it. What we'll do is during the show is I'll put you on mute, and if you want to say anything, just go ahead and say something, and just be easier because then we're going to hear our voice back and forth.
Hold on.
Oh wait a minute, it's not doing it. Oh, it's still doing it.
It's not doing. Is it still doing it?
Yeah.
I don't hear any echo.
It's only when we talk when you're up here.
We'll have to figure that out. So I'm going to put it on mute right now, okay? And it's weird. It's weird. So, go ahead. Introduce Kenny. Lex, can you hear me?
Oh, you're talking to me. Okay, so how to introduce a guest like Kenny today.
Maybe what you should do before you introduce him, speak to the people about him.
Don't worry,
first.
I will be doing that. Yeah, don't worry.
Okay.
Just trying to find the words, because this is going to be a show that we haven't done. We haven't done one like this. That is potentially going to split our audience a little bit. And I want before I introduce Kenny and we bring him on, I just want to let you guys in the chat know that what we discussed today and whatever is discussed today, you don't have to agree 100%. You don't have to disagree 100%. These are the thoughts, opinions of one person talking to us, and how we're trying to figure out why. And so if there's anything in there that you disagree with, obviously, if you want to say you disagree, that's fine. But what we don't want is anyone attacking Kenny or being horrible in the chat room. So please keep it PC, keep it friendly. As we all know, we're all in the same industry together. We all want the best for everyone. And we just want to get this opinion up onto the show, because this show isn't just about paranormal investigators and us proving stuff. It's also about skeptical people and why should people believe us and stuff like that. So, as you might have heard, I can't remember the full name of what Kenny writes for, but I mean, Brian, do you remember what the thing's called?
Yeah, it's all in the description below, so they can actually read the description below. So
so without any spoilers, Kenny is a paranormal investigator turned skeptic, if I'm correct, and he's going to explain why. We're going to get really into the nitty gritty of it all. So just stick with us, and please show respect to our guest today, because this show is not about cyberbullying anybody. It's a opinion show that we can talk with each other, we can have dialogue, and maybe we can turn his attention. Maybe he'll make some great points, and we want to discuss it together. So without further ado, I'd like to bring on the man himself. Everybody, this is Kenny. He's looking a bit green today.
I thought you'd get a kick out of that.
I knew you. I was waiting for it because I saw it the whole time that you were holding it up there.
I was like, damn, my arm's getting tired. Hurry up.
If I'd have known that, I would have long-winded that. I would still be introducing you.
First, I want to say thank you for coming on today's show. And I think it was what Lex said was important. And, sometimes people, well, at least I think, sometimes people, when they come into these types of rooms and these type of shows and stuff like that, they sometimes say not very nice things. And I know you are. And so, but I tell you, and I was speaking the truth earlier, like I've been looking forward to this show all week. I really have. And there is going to be something near close to the end of the show. Maybe a little bit before that we are going to be discussing today. And again, we don't want people to get offended. We don't want people to get upset. We're doing it for a certain reason, because we think people's safety is in jeopardy, and that's why we're doing it. And you'll find out what that is later on in the show. So stick around and watch that. Yeah, it's going to be good. So again, I'm going to sit here and look pretty. I'm going to get in there so often.
You sure about that?
Well, I kind of looking good today, actually. So the whole sweater, looking good. So.
Yeah, I got the memo, so we go to match same uniform.
That's awesome. But again, thank you for coming on.
No problem. No problem. And don't worry.
Really,
I mean, I like the nice disclaimer you guys made. Difference of opinion is something I'm used to, and I mean, you can discuss and disagree and debate me all you want. That's cool, and I'll talk to you as long as it's professional and polite. But yeah, I just, when it gets off the professionalism and goes into the realm of ad hominem attacks and just all around bullshit, then it's like, all right, it's time to walk away, because there's no progress. There's no progress going to be made. So, but I do appreciate that. That's nice.
Yeah. I just want to test something for a minute. And see if you get the echo when Taryn is up. Okay. I want to try something, because I think I know what's going on. Go ahead.
Yep, I hear. Oh, I hear myself. Yeah.
I don't hear an echo at all.
maybe you need to go into your, if you have settings. I forget
There's an echo. There's actually an echo cancellation, and it's in share.
Okay, hold on.
Or no, it's in mute. It's in mute.
Yeah,
Or
make
the
sure that
microphone.
echo cancellation is checked.
All right, well, then I have to do this.
She broke it.
I didn't break it.
Broke it.
Just
Hello?
bear
Hey, with us, guys.
Hold on. It's taking forever for this thing.
Yeah,
You just click on
the
the microphone and
That's
and
what.
then it comes up. And,
Yeah. Sorry. Is that better?
Hello. Yep, gone.
All
Excellent.
right.
Excellent.
Yay! Fixed it.
Yeah.
It's still there's still a delay for me though. That's the weird thing.
Do you want to refresh and come back up?
Where's the delay? Is it in this feed, or are you listening
No,
like
I
in a
have it
separate window?
like both.
I mean,
All
if you
right.
have it, on Facebook, it's going to be behind us.
Yeah, mute that. You
That's
can't listen
muted.
to that. Yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
my Facebook's behind us, so I've got it here so I can reply to the comments.
But do you see that it's choppy? Or is that
Yeah.
just me?
Yeah, I see it a little
Okay.
bit.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. Well, here we are.
Lovely.
are.
So,
Lex,
well,
ahead.
let's dive into one second.
Lord.
What is that?
Someone just, a friend of mine just tried to jump off the table. Right,
You want to
you're
show
not
him
coming
and
on
get it? You want to show him and get it over with, or
No, because that's no.
Oh my god!
He just wants to join in, man. So,
Two peas in a pod. I'm telling you, 2 peas in a pod right here, buddy.
right, go over there.
Go on his
This is the whole show. We're just gonna play with Star Wars toys all night.
But he randomly
Let-
walks by himself. So if he does walk
Taryn,
onto
you have
screen,
any Star Wars toys?
Me?
Yes.
Lightsaber.
I do.
Oh, do you? Yeah, I'm the only one let out here. I don't have any Star Wars toys.
No, I don't have any Star Wars stuff, I don't think.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
Alright,
yeah. Maybe you
stop.
want to turn that off.
oh, I can't. He just walks around on his own because it's just
Oh,
he's
okay.
fine. He'll fall asleep in a minute.
So
So
gonna
let's
have
get
a-
into this.
Yeah, so we're gonna have a bunch of questions for you today, Kenny, and like I got them all up on the screen here, and I got like loads. I don't even know if we're gonna be able to get through them all, but let's try. Let's try.
go.
Go ahead.
Let's
Yeah,
rock.
let's go.
do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, first of all, I'm incredibly excited to get into the nitty gritty. Taryn filled us in a little bit about you. We got some juicy questions through that I was really excited to get into a bit further on. But first of all, like I said in the introduction, and I'm pretty sure I was correct. If I'm wrong, please correct me. That you were a paranormal investigator turned skeptic. Is that correct?
I guess it depends on how you define paranormal investigator. I mean, I investigate paranormal claims or claims of supernatural. I was a ghost hunter. That's usually how I phrase it. I was a ghost hunter. That was back in the 90s, the early 90s. And then I slowly transitioned into more of a skeptical attitude or approach. And I still investigate the claims, but from a different perspective. So that would be a little bit more accurate.
So when did you? Sorry, Lex. So when did you start investigating?
Back in 97.
So you were what, 5 years old when you started? What's going on here?
Are you
It's just-
kidding me?
That was a compliment. That was a compliment. I was giving you a compliment.
Wow.
Yeah.
How old do you think I am? How old do you think I am?
I don't play that guessing game.
Oh,
because
okay.
That
Don't get
gets me in
offended.
trouble. Gets me in trouble.
I'll actually be 50 this year.
Oh wow. No, I would have
So-
never ever thought that, to
50?
be honest.
50. That's
Kenny, I
right.
didn't know you were gonna be 50.
That's right. I'm an old fuck.
Oh dear. Well, that's funny. So you started investigating when I was 5. I just started school.
Now that makes you feel old, doesn't it?
Yeah,
That
thanks
makes
a
you
lot
feel
for
old
that.
right
Okay,
there.
good night, everyone. Get out of here.
Well, if Kenny does start to fall asleep on the stream, we'll wake him up. Don't worry. The first question. So, sorry, compose yourself. Come on. So the first question I've got for you then is so you said you're still investigating now these claims from a different perspective. So how I'm trying to figure out how to word this. What does your involvement in the investigations mean now then? So we know what ghost hunting entails when you're a full believer. So what do you do investigations now, and how are you so involved with all the? Do you go with other people as well? Sorry, or do you...
It depends. It really depends. So if I can tag along, that's great. I do go to like what I call pay to play events where you pay like $20 or $50 or whatever to go to a ghost hunt for a night. And it's usually run by a ghost hunting team. So I'll go with those mostly to observe the people that attend. And that's where that part of it is more observational data collection, where I watch everyone, I take notes, I have constant notes, and I have a form that I fill out about like equipment use, what equipment, how they're using it, if they're using it correctly, according to manufacturer specs. And I just watch. That's what I do the whole night. When it comes to my own investigations, if I am invited out to someplace or feel the need, then I usually conduct an interview that's usually done online before I get there to see if there is a reason to come out. Because sometimes you can solve some mysteries just talking to them and offering different ideas, things for them to try or things to look for. And often that's the case where, a mysterious door that opens and closes by itself, you can offer some suggestions about, checking for air leaks and different air pressure in the house. And you can figure out, okay, it's probably from different air pressure and it's making that door open and close, especially like bedroom doors. Other times it calls for a little bit more hands-on, and I love boots on ground. I love the getting in there and figuring out what's going on. And the difference between, I guess, what I see ghost hunters do and what I do is that I don't go in there to spend the night, spend a couple hours, like 4 or 5 hours, and do EVP sessions or take pictures and wait in the dark and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I go in with specific claims. I've already mapped out the specific claims that they're making, and then I figure out which ones are testable. Like, what can I actually go in there and test to see what's happening? And then that's what I do. I spend that time focused on those claims to see if we can figure out what the cause is.
Yeah.
And the majority of the time, I figure out what it is, working together with the homeowner or business owner or what have you. And then other people that I bring in, we figure out what's going on. The few that we can't figure out, I label as I don't know, because that's exactly what it is. That's what the data suggests. We don't know. And until we get more information or I can spend more time there, then that's how it stays until we figure out a cause. So
Interesting.
Hopefully that answers your question.
Yes, it does.
Definitely. So the question I would like to ask you, and we generally ask this to everyone, but I want to put in something else into that question. So the question that we ask people all the time is, how did you get into the paranormal? And the second part to that question is, why did you turn to being a skeptic? It's sort of, what made you do that? How do I want to say this? What made you transfer over from a paranormal investigator? Yes, but over to the other side where you are writing things about certain people that are making claims that are just not true. What brought you to that point?
Cookies.
Zach Baggins.
Oh my God. We can talk about him all you want.
I love that.
It's coming up.
It's in there.
BFFs. We're total BFFs. All right. So the first part of your question, how did I get into the paranormal kind of thing? Yeah. And my origin story is pretty much like most people of my generation, because I have to say that now because we've already established that I'm really old, is that I grew up with shows like In Search Of and Unsolved Mysteries. I grew up with those shows, and that was a time when you had to be sitting in front of the TV at a certain time on a certain night, and that's when you watched it. If not, you missed it. You weren't going to see it ever again, you know? And so like those nights, that's where I was, glued to my little, 15-inch or 14-inch black and white television, just watching it like amazed. Loch Ness Monster and Bigfoot and aliens and this and that. So it was fascinating to me. I also went to Catholic school, which, I mean, they're not really big on the paranormal.
Yeah.
So, but the grade school library that we went to, or that I had access to, had two books on the paranormal. And it had one that was a ghost book, and it had the picture of the Brown Lady of Raymond Hall on the cover. And I read that every day. Like that was the only book that I ever checked out when we went to the library, because I didn't give a shit about anything else. Read that over and over, and that was just fascinating to me. And then, fast forward to the 90s, and this new thing to us was the internet. It was like, wow, we could get on and talk to other people all over the world. And I started looking up groups, like who does things with ghosts. And it blew my mind that there were actually groups that investigated this kind of stuff in my area. So I contacted one, I joined one. I went out, and my wife and I actually joined the group together, and we went out to the cemeteries and haunted houses, and we were catching orbs and ecto and all this stuff, and I was like, whoa, this is so cool. But then it gets to your second part.
I hear a butt coming up here.
Here's the butt. So the more I got into it, the more I was like, wow, this is something that's supposed to be so rare. Catching pictures of ghosts is supposed to be so rare, pre 1995, 97, there were few books, and they all recycled the same pictures. So it was really rare, yet hundreds of groups, and it went into thousands of groups across the country and the world were getting all these photos, all these videos. Why? And that's what really drove me. And it drove me to learn more about photography. And I eventually got into photography as a side business. And the more I learned, the more I understood that a lot of these were the vast majority were camera anomalies. They were artifacts of the camera or operator error, misinterpretations, and they were easily reproducible and under the same conditions. That's important. I was doing it under the same exact conditions they were. And because of that, I could show, all right, I have supporting data that shows that these anomalies that you're presenting as ghosts are photographic anomalies. They're not anything supernatural. They are a natural part of how the camera works and sees the world. As opposed to the ghost hunters that I was discussing this with, which were presenting them with nothing more than belief. And when you compare the two, unfortunately, the belief falls short of proving what they had. And again, that's not saying anything mean or derogatory towards them. It was just a misunderstanding. And it was actually, it comes down to a gross ignorance of how photography works. And when I say ignorance, that's not a mean term. That's not calling people's names. Ignorance just means a lack of knowledge in that. And that's what it was, a lack of knowledge in what they were dealing with. So the more I got into photography, the more I learned, the more I was able to understand what was going on. And I started doing more videos about like how to and this and that. And then the more I did that, the more I got, I guess I got on the radar of skeptical groups. So I started doing lectures for skeptical groups, showing them how to do things and how to deconstruct photography. And then I learned more, and I got offered a column for Skeptical Inquirer magazine. That's the magazine that I write for. And now I do not only a column for them, I also do I produce videos for them where I get into things like the last one was the Amityville horror pictures that were presented as evidence, and I really dive into them. I dove into the Connect and went into the actually how it works and how you get all these anomalies. So that's where I am. And I guess what drives me is I want to know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I don't like passing off information that I either made up because I think that's the way it is, or I believe that's the way it is, or information that I just heard from somebody else. You know, that tribal knowledge aspect where everybody says this, so therefore it must be true. Total bullshit. You gotta research this stuff yourself. You gotta verify and fact check yourself, and that's what I do. And honestly, I've become really anal with fact checking everything. I mean, I don't care if my own mother and even when my wife tells me something, I fact check it.
Careful, she's watching.
I know she's watching, and she knows I do this. It's no secret. It's no secret. We fact check.
Don't you pick on my Donna.
And we go back and forth. I mean, my wife and I go back and forth. Sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm wrong. You know, but it's good because we fact check it, and we make sure we know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And as much as I hate to admit it, I do admit when I'm wrong.
Can I just fact check that, Donna? Can you just confirm that he does admit that he's wrong sometimes?
Yeah, give it 30 seconds. She's going to come up here. Like, yep.
Well, that's I do kind of see where you're coming from to a degree with like photography and stuff, because there's a lot of times I've spoken quite a lot about orbs. Is something that I don't really. I mean, I've never used an orb as. And I hate them. I've never put them as evidence. When I used to do a live show with a company I was with, I used to have people tell it. I said, "Orb lives don't matter because orbs aren't true." And I used to wind people up all the time. I know, and
that's so wrong.
That's awesome. That's a shirt right there. That is a shirt right there.
I am so un-PC. So, but I used to do it all the time because people would always. There's a couple of groups in particular that hit me up in Facebook, and they still do it every now and then. And they'll send me this video that they've got or they found, and like, can you tell me how this is done? And I'm not a debunking person, but if people ask me like how could they have done this, I will look at it and I'll try and figure out from a video how they could have done certain things. And one of them was an oh my gosh video where I showed them that if you throw a tin can and then rewind the footage and then played it next to his one, I was like, well, that's how he did it. He rewound the footage, played it backwards. So like I do it all the time. Because like yourself, I want to know what I'm talking about, but I also started doing this because I had questions from my own experiences, and I want to prove it to myself that it's all true. So I can see, but photography is the biggest one that I have an issue with at the moment, quite a lot. So orbs is the biggest one. My favorite one, I think, was someone drove to Gettysburg, and they said they filmed like a group of orbs were going across the road. And then I looked at the video, and if you find the one that there's someone filming behind them, so you can see more of the screen, and you can see it's rain on the car window. So there was I did plan to do a video where I was actually going to create orbs using every way that I know how to show people that why it's not evidence based. So, and photography is one of the biggest tricks. You can fake everything with photography, and even if you don't fake it, you can misinterpret photos, like you said. But I will get into a bit more on the on certain types of evidence and how you can explain it in a moment. But with the skeptic job that you do now, and you are investigating this kind of stuff, do you ever look at people who are making content videos and say like that, or do you talk about the TV ones, or do you ever talk about the YouTubers who are finding this evidence like crazy and posting it online, or do you just ignore them?
It really depends. I do have a TikTok account where I go through videos on TikTok where they promote like this is a paranormal video or this is a ghost video. And I, especially the ones that are poltergeist type videos, you know, where shit's moving all over and flying around. I specifically target those because I can recreate them. And that's exactly what I do. I actually recreate them shot by shot and show you this is how it's done. Actually, I play like, you know, when you do a duet or a stitch. Yeah. So I'll show the recreation and then I'll come on and say, well, this is how I did it, and show you all like fishing line and stuff like that. And the fishing line is, I mean, for those videos, fishing line is the way to go. Especially, I think I have it. I do. So this is actually thread fishing line. So when I turn out the lights, even holding it like this, it disappears. And it's actually it's right here. But it disappears easily, especially when you turn the light out. And if you notice in a lot of those poltergeist videos, there are not bright lights. Like I have a ring light here, and I have 3 lights above me, and it still disappears. But when you turn those off and have just one little light, you can pretty much hide anything, and it's very easy to do. So yeah, I do focus on them. YouTube videos, if I see them, and I've done one like you described, Lex, where the video was just reversed, and that's really easy to do. I mean, that's literally like 3 clicks in my editing software to put up the video, reverse it, save it, boom, you're done. You have a ghost video. So a lot of the stuff, I don't get into it too much because it's very time consuming. That's a very, very deep rabbit hole that if you start diving in there and lose sight, then you forget other projects. And I have too many projects already. And my wife will tell you I have way too many projects to commit so much time to a lot of these videos. Oftentimes I will comment though, if I'm tagged in it and I see it and it's a short video, you know, like maybe like under a minute or so, then I'll watch it and I'll comment real quick what I think it might be. And I try to make sure I say that, you know, I think it might be this, because I'm not sure unless I actually get this to set up a test and recreate it myself. So
Kenny, do you know who The Shape is
who the what?
on YouTube?
The Shape?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
You should check his channel out, because his sole purpose on YouTube is he totally exposes, he breaks down and exposes like people that investigate and, you know, basically
we could be friends.
Yes.
Oh, he's funny with it
He
too.
usually does the top guys, like the guys that have 3 million, 4 million, 5 million subscribers.
Yeah,
And you know what? Those are the kind of people that you really want to go after, for a lack of a better term.
Yeah.
Because if you go, like oftentimes if I hit somebody that is unknown and just has a few views, I get accused of, you're just attacking or picking the low-hanging fruit. You know, you're only going for the easy target. Whereas if you go for someone that has millions of views or followers, that's, by popularity standards, which is not a good standard to go by, but by that standard, that should be some of the best evidence that you can find. So if you take that down and deconstruct it and say, look, you know, this is probably or most likely how it was created, then that's showing that, all right, there are logical explanations for this. So maybe we should rethink everything below that. But unfortunately, it doesn't happen.
I mean, I get that point, because it's the same way when people talk about policy or stuff in the real world, where they always say you should always punch up and not punch down. So you should always go for the you know, if you're going to debunk a video, go for the ones that are the bigger guys, because they can handle it. And it's not going to put them out. I mean, we've seen it. It's not putting them out of making these videos, but you do it to somebody who's got 10 subscribers, the chance are there's going to give up being a creator.
Me and Lex, there's a couple of people on YouTube that we don't like, and we have no qualms to say who they are and why we don't like them. But one person that seems to come up about a lot, and he's a famous YouTuber, and Lex has said this in the past. If you watch his videos, at least every video that goes up, every 4 to 6 minutes, something happens.
Oh, it's quite funny. I had them. I don't know if it's still the case now, because I don't watch their channels anymore. But there was like a point where I had like my laptop, my phone, my computer, my TV, my other TV, all with a different video on, and at the exact not exact same time, but within 20 seconds of each other. It kept mirroring the entire way. So it's a structured way. Now, someone said to me, but it's just structured editing. And I was like, well, no, because this is an uncut video, apparently. So not really structured, but it did make me laugh. And because I'm not, like I said, I fully do believe in this. And I think I take it as an insult when people are making a mockery of what we're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I enjoy picking them.
And
I do.
You should feel that way. And I mean, that's when I do what I do, I'm not doing it just in spite, you know, and I want people to understand that I'm not doing it in spite of what you do. You know, I'm not doing it just to make fun of you and say, ha ha, you know, ha ha. I don't do that. It's not the reason I do it. The reason I do it is because there's bad information being promoted, and I'm trying to look at it from a different perspective and bring you not only a better explanation, but all the data that supports that better explanation, so that when you go forth next time, you're better prepared to look at what happens, to interpret what's going on.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the reason I do it. It's not to make a mockery of people, but you know what? Certain people I do mock, and because they're assholes and they deserve it.
100%.
You know what? I was watching your show on Friday night. You knew I was there, and I really
block you.
Yeah. Wow. That's funny. I was watching your show and I learned two things on your show that I thought was really, really interesting. The first one was I am never, ever going to eat that chip. And the second thing that I learned, and the second thing I found interesting is your theory on demons.
Yeah. Okay.
You guys talked about demons. You guys talked about demons a little bit on that episode, and I found it because I'm one of those people that I get tired of seeing these videos where they're finding demons every single week.
Yeah.
And the videos, and it just gets ridiculous to me. And then you got the people out there that really don't know the field that well, and they're watching these videos, and people are thinking, "Oh my God, like this guy's finding a demon all the time."
Yeah.
Like, what is going on here? And I'd just like you to share a little bit on your thoughts about demons.
So
interesting. I don't know this. I've never asked Kenny this, so this is good.
I mean, when you go back and look at the origins of demons, they come from mythology. They come from other religions that were adapted and transformed and appropriated really from previous religions, and they were given different names, and or the names were slightly changed, and they were incorporated with different backstories. And today you have this idea that demons are sexy, and it has a lot to do with Hollywood because they've made it that way. You know, we watch TV shows where, you know, Lucifer himself likes to take off his shirt, and a lot of people like that. And it's like, oh, cool, dude, he's hot, yeah, and he's the bad boy.
Oh,
there you
God,
go. There we go. You know, it's the bad boy attitude. But when it comes to these ghost hunting shows, it's living on the edge. It's like, oh, you know what? We don't have orbs anymore. We don't have ecto mist anymore. They even went to apparitions and shadow people, and this is just another step in the evolution of what is hot, you know, for that kind of hobby. And demons everywhere are part of it. And we see, I mean, Douche Baggins. I mean, he's possessed every freaking episode, you know?
Yeah.
And
we're coming to Zach soon. We're going to be coming to Zach soon because we're really interested on where it all began. So Lex, if you can ask him that question, but finish what you were saying.
There's a dangerous part of this too. And I don't think I think it's overlooked by most of these teams that go out there. And when you go into a home and you're conducting these, what they consider investigations, and we have a different opinion on what an investigation entails and the methodology. But say they collect EVP and weird pictures, and they conclude based on pretty much belief and the little bit of data they collected that the house is infested with demons or has a demon or there's a demon there. That group usually on average spends about 4 or 5 hours at a home. Then they tell the people who live there that have to continue to live there, oh, there's a demon here. And then they usually leave. They go away and leave that family. Now you are responsible. That group is responsible for causing anxiety and stress and fear in that family that's there. And I'm really, really surprised that there has not been any kind of civil suit filed against the ghost hunting team because of somebody that has to move out of their house because they cannot live there anymore because of fear of what this ghost hunting team told them. And remember, when they call, like, I know it's like buyer beware, but when the homeowner calls a group, that group usually shows up with their matching bowling shirts. And yeah, that's a little joke. They usually show up with their team shirts. They have Pelican cases filled with equipment, and they bring it in. They look professional. They are perceived as an authority. And that's a problem because most times they're not. They don't have an academic or professional background that allows them to offer advice or counseling. These are people that are hobbyists. It's not a profession. It's not a field of study for them. It's a hobby. Yeah. They do it on the weekends, 4 or 5 hours.
I can't believe Dead Files hasn't had a lawsuit against them because that's what they do every show. At the end of every single show. I can't stand it.
Yeah, and looking at it in at that way or that perspective, that sheds a whole new light on what people should be doing when they're going into a private investigation. Yeah. And and again, me and Lex are like big on this, and we talk about this a lot. We are sick and tired of people every single week saying they've caught a demon. It just doesn't happen like that. And it's I'm glad you said that because it put it in a different way that maybe people are not thinking about and not taking into account when they're going into a private home. And I thought that was great. That was great.
It's a very serious issue that is overlooked. You're getting in someone's head. You know, how many times, and I don't know if you know this from personal experience, but how many times do you see, like on the reality TV shows, when the team goes in and they're interviewing and talking or doing the reveal? Look at the faces of the people that own the house. They are 100% absorbed in what is being said. They are seeing it as not only an authority figure, but they're taking it as professional, well-educated advice and knowledge. And it's not. It's not. And I'm not trying to be mean. It's just not.
Well, I think I'm sorry there. I think Erin's just said in the chat something very important, that she imagines that there's probably a clause in the paperwork they have to sign to get these shows to come and do these investigations. Either that or they're in on it from the beginning. But if there is a clause in there, then maybe that's why they can't sue.
Maybe, but that may apply to the TV shows, but it's not because of the private groups, the hundreds or thousands of groups that go into private homes every week.
Yeah.
You need to watch your ass, honestly, because it's coming. It's coming. I have no doubt it's coming.
Yeah. People are going to get away from private home investigations, because they don't want to take that risk, right? Of course, then they shouldn't even say anything, to be honest. That's one thing I like. That's one thing I like about ghost hunters, because I do watch them every so often. And, one of the biggest thing they say at the end of the video all the time, or their shows, is there's nothing malicious here. There's absolutely nothing malicious here. You're fine. You're okay. Let's move on. And, so I don't know. You could say differently, but
interesting side fact about this is that Jason Hawes and I are actually friends. Yeah. We've been friends for like 20 years. And
I knew that. Yeah,
he's in a secret location, but I hung out with him last night. we were hanging out, having a couple of drinks, talking shit. And we've talked back and forth about different things. And although I don't agree with everything he does, at least their show tries to offer some kind of education. Not all the time. Sometimes it's wrong. And we can get into that later, especially the science part of it. But when they research and find out that, somebody didn't die at this particular house, they're not afraid to say, hey, we research it, and the 2 people you say haunt this place didn't actually die here.
Yeah. And that's what I was getting to. That's
good.
That's kind of what I was saying. So go ahead, Lex.
Well, I just wanted to touch on that demon thing one more time. And I always say something, and I think this is my favorite thing. So let's put it in this way. Imagine tomorrow.
Lex.
I saw. Nice. I was gonna say, if you imagine for 5 minutes today that everything that we're talking about is 100% real, confirmed truth. Demons exist, and they're as big, bad, and scary as we're shown in movies and TV and stuff like that. Can you imagine like what these investigators would be like if it was confirmed real and they ran into one And they were like, because you always see them, especially the videos, they're really bad when they're like, oh, it's demonic, but they're laughing and joking and playing around. And if you were in a room with something that's classified as a demon entity or a demonic entity, you wouldn't be sat there laughing and stuff like that. Because people that actually believe in demons, and some of very historic, famous cases, when you see people talking about them, they're terrified. It's been 30 years since they experienced it, and they're still scared about it. And you're telling these people think it's okay to walk into a home and it's like, yeah, well, it's a demon, mate. Nothing I can do here. I'm done. So just imagining what that family would be like. Like if for 2 minutes everyone knew it was real, it's massively irresponsible.
It's like, yeah, they'll do a scene and they're like, oh yeah, this is demonic. Holy shit, it's happening right now. Okay, it's gone. You know what? Tune in next week when we do the same place. It's ridiculous. Like there is no fear. It's known. It's almost like a inside joke. But
yeah. And the comments crack me up when people comment on these videos and TV show comment sections, and they're always like, "Oh, you're so brave for going back." And I was like, "No, they're not. They're not brave because Slim Dick Dave is around the corner throwing a shoebox everywhere." Like
Slim Dick Dave, man, I'm writing that down. That's good.
That's my Slim Dick Dave is my nickname to everyone who on the popular YouTube paranormal page. Everyone who's off camera, that's what I credit them as.
Wow. I like that.
I'm by myself. No, you're not. You have Slim Dick Dave. But yeah, so that bugs me. But now we've mentioned it a few times, and I think there's a few people in our chat room today who are going to be interested in this. We have made no secret on here that Brian and myself, I can't speak for Brian. I'm sure you'll agree with him. I mean, Zach Baggins to me is the most arrogant piece of shit that I've ever seen on TV. I used to like him when I was very young and the shows first came out
last year. Very young.
Very young. But then I just see what he's like on TV and I just can't. I've got him. I think I follow him on Twitter unless he's blocked me by now, but I'm not sure. I do talk shit about him all the time. So I was like, I can't see how people, even believers, people that are like me and Brian, watch this dude and think that everything is correct and he sells his museum and all this shit. But as far as I'm aware, as we've mentioned, you obviously are best friends with the guy. You've I want to know a little bit about this this history between you and Twat Baggins and I want to know personally what in your
this show is going to get so taken down.
If you've ever watched him or seen him on TV, have you ever met Slim Dick Dave, who happens to be on his show all the time, or have you got any opinions on him that that we're miscommunicating over here?
So, I know Zach Baggins is actually banned. Like they're banned from going to a couple places in Gettysburg to investigate after they were there because they were like really disrespectful to some of the stuff there and everything. And there's a couple of inns that will he's not allowed to go back. I know that.
Interesting.
So with him, it really started because he's over the top. He's like the Jim Carrey of ghost hunting. He really is over the top acting.
Really, don't make fun of our Canadians. Don't make fun of our Canadians.
It's the best analogy I can give you. But it started with his museum. So I went out to his museum a couple years ago, and I had my wife went out with me, and I also was accompanied by Susan Gerbic and Mark Edward. Susan she runs a Guerrilla Skepticism website, and she does a lot of sting operations on psychics, exposing them for hot reading, which is knowing information beforehand. And then Mark Edward is a mentalist and magician, and he worked for the Psychic Friends Network. So I had pretty good company with me going through. As we went through the tour, which I don't recommend, and I say that with all honesty, it was almost $50 a person to go through. We were rushed through. Like when I go to a museum, I think we can walk through and read the information that's with objects. No, not this time. We were rushed through with several tour guides. But one thing in particular stood out to me because he mentioned they have the Bela Lugosi mirror. And they talk about this mirror, and it's cursed, and there's a history with it. And Bela Lugosi, who was the famous Dracula actor, owned it, and he used to use it for scrying. And he would get messages and stuff, and he used to use it for communicating with his deceased wife. And that really interested me. Like, I was like, well, you know, what did he hear? What did his wife, who was his wife, and what was she saying? But I had to wait until we got out because you're not allowed to use phones inside the museum. So when I got out and looked it up, I found out that Bela Lugosi was married 5 times, and he died before all of his ex-wives. So there was no ex-wife or wife that he could communicate with from the other side. It just flat out false. So that got me interested in it, and I started doing a deep dive, and I actually contacted the woman that donated the mirror. We talked, found out some more information, did record search. So I posted an article on Skeptical Inquirer that just related all the information and showed that this was completely false story that was fabricated, some by him. And then the story that came from the owner of the mirror was family folklore that was made up by one person, and not intentionally to, you know, get on TV, but more because he was a fan of Bela Lugosi. So I posted that article, and since then I was blocked. I posted another article about some other things, and then one of my trips out to Vegas for a science conference, I was contacted by several ex-employees of his museum, and I was told that they were all fired because they liked the article that I posted. They clicked like on social media, and they were fired because of it.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
And then we got some more information, and I realized that apparently my picture is up in the office, and I am not allowed in the museum anymore. So he definitely knows about me.
Have you tried to go back?
It's a
I
wanted
haven't tried
poster
to.
or what?
I haven't tried to go back yet. And it also, I mean, I really pushed him over the edge because he released a book called, oh, wait, I have it here. Let me show you. This piece of shit. So this book came out, and at a friend's urging, my friend Melanie, who is an awesome investigator, she urged me to read this. And when I did, I found out that, and I'm gonna just flip through it here. If you look for any underline pages or highlighted pages, which you'll find out throughout the book,
I know
it is
where
the
this
most
is going.
plagiarized book I have ever read in my entire life.
Oh my gosh.
I actually found out that Troy Taylor was a ghostwriter of this. So Zach didn't write anything in here. Troy Taylor actually wrote it. He wrote a book called Ghost Hunter's Guidebook, and it was the 10-year anniversary that he recycled for this. So that's exactly what this book is. In addition to between 40 and 50 other articles and chapters that were plagiarized from other books. And I tracked them down. I went through the entire book and contacted all the authors, contacted the publishing company, sent them a list of every author that they plagiarized, including, because there's a chapter in here about photography, and that's my thing, man. That's my jam. So I read the first line of the chapter, and I was like, I know where this fucking came from. And I reached up. I literally came around. I grabbed the book off my shelf here. It was a book by Joe Nickell. Let me get in focus. There we go. Called, it was about photography. And it was literally word for word. He copy and pasted it, the first chapter out of that book, and put it in, well, Troy's book. And then it recycled into this book. So it was and Joe Nickell is a prominent skeptic. He's been writing about claims for 50 plus years. 50 plus years. So when that came out, that pissed him off royally, as you can imagine, because I mean, I contacted everybody. I don't sugarcoat. I don't half-ass something. I contacted everyone, and the publisher was forced to redo the book and put out a second printing. Which, if you're into publishing, that's big. That's a big no-no. That's a lot of money that they wasted. Wow. So
Wow.
So there you go.
I wanted to ask you, and last week, me, Taryn, and Lex got on a Zoom call, or we got on here on Melon, and we were talking something about mediumship. So what Taryn said, there was something about mediumship and an experiment that you did, and with a bunch of small group of people. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
And a certain medium we should add in there. There's a certain medium and a group of people you experimented with.
So is this the what's his name?
Remember you wrote an article about it too.
Okay.
Remember you made you.
Yeah.
I don't want to say. I want you to say what you did, but I mean,
I want you to say his name. I don't want to say his name.
No. I was going to say what the experiment was, but
Fraser. Oh man, I'm drawing a blank here on the because it's been a while, but we did. So Susan Gerbic, who I mentioned previously about, she went to the museum with me. She runs Guerrilla Skepticism on Wikipedia, and it's a group of skeptics that go into Wikipedia entries and provide references, accurate information. They don't try to cite everything with skepticism and poo-poo everything. They actually try to get good information in there with a lot of citations. So everything is referenced, not just opinions. So she does a lot of sting operations. She did one on Thomas John. She did one on Chip Coffey. And
I'm interested in that one.
I can send you a link.
I'm so interested in that one because there's a friend of mine that got in a huge debate with him. And it was the whole argument was on Twitter, and this guy is so. I'm sorry, I don't normally speak about people like this, but he's got to be one of the most arrogant people. That it's just what he was saying over Twitter. Somebody reached out to him and sent him a picture, and he basically shot that person down, embarrassed that person on Twitter, and made that person feel about this big. And then somebody came in and tried to protect this guy. He goes, you know what? This guy doesn't know anything about this industry. He caught a picture and he caught something on the picture. He just wanted some advice, but you put this guy down like he's a piece of trash.
Right.
And it was just, I never saw it personally, but yeah, I'd love to know more about this guy because this guy is a piece of work, in my opinion.
So Taryn, were you talking about Matt Fraser or Constantine?
well, Constantine was. I didn't tell them about Constantine because I figured that was how we would go into the Robert story. But I was talking about when you did that, when you and a group of people,
operation. Okay.
Yes.
So is Matt, if I'm right, Matt Fraser's the one from Meet the Frasers, wasn't
Yes.
he?
Yes.
American is an American psychic, I believe,
Yes.
isn't he?
Yep.
Psychic, sorry. But
so I was asked, Susan does a lot of sting operations, and this is like a really organized operation. It's not something that's like, hey, let's just go and visit and see what happens. When I tell you it's an organized event, it is a worldwide organized event. We had, I don't remember the exact number, but probably 15 to 20 people from literally all around the world online at the same time in a Zoom meeting, monitoring what we were doing. And I got a group of people together. There were 6 of us together. We attended the show. They paid for us to go to the show and sit in the audience to get readings. And I was updating. We had characters that we were playing. So we had social media characters that were developed for us that we didn't know about. We were given a dossier of just like the minimal amount of information to go in there. And if we were asked specific questions, we had to literally make it up on the spot. But went in, and the idea was to try to get noticed and get a reading from him. And this was a gallery reading. So you're talking, there was easily like 500 people in the room. So it was very difficult to get noticed. And unfortunately we didn't. But we also had, what was his name? Jake Hitt, John Hitt, I think. We had a reporter from the New York Post with us. And that guy he attended several meetings like that before. We actually met him beforehand, like a week beforehand. and we were planning out things. So when we attended, he was in the crowd too, and he was actually in a row that was picked. And the problem with this was that Matt didn't pick one person in particular. He went down because it was sections. It was like an auditorium kind of thing. He would pick an entire row and make you stand up. So you had 15 plus people that would stand up, and he would just start throwing things out there, general predictions, until somebody went, "Oh, that's me," and then he would zero in on them. And what we call that cold reading, where he's throwing out general ideas and general statements and waiting for someone to bite. It's also called fishing. Once someone,
that's what I was thinking.
Once someone bit, then everyone else would kind of sit down, and then he would talk to them more. But the statements he was making was not anything specific. It was very general. And there's a book, this one. So this is almost like the Bible for psychics, for good psychics and mediums, that if you read this book, this tells you about all the stages of life, and it goes through like everything that happens emotionally, behaviorally, physically, everything. And when you read this, you get a really good idea of what happens or what people would experience throughout their lives, depending on what age group they're in. And this was actually recommended by Mark Edward, the mentalist I mentioned earlier. But all these statements were general. And unfortunately, we didn't get picked, so we didn't have concrete information. But again, I videotaped the entire thing, and that was with permission, because in Pennsylvania, it's a two-party state, so you have to have permission. So when we actually walked in, we talked to the organizer, Matt's agent, and she said that yes, we could take video all we wanted. I was like,
cool.
Fuck yeah! That's awesome. So we did that. So with that particular case, he was cold reading the entire way. There was no hot reading. And let me dial back a little bit. The purpose of the Facebook pages that we had created for us was to put out information. And we tagged him. We tagged the event so that if he had anyone working for him and he wanted, he could look us up and get information. He had pictures of us. He could see what we were doing, what we were excited about. We talked to other people in the crowd and gave our backstories and to see what would happen. But unfortunately, Matt relies completely on cold reading and not hot reading, at least from what we observed.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, throughout the entire show, there was nothing specific. There was everything was a general statement. And that's something that I look for. Because I really do I would love to find a psychic or a medium that can really talk to somebody. I mean, I go to psychic fairs, and sometimes I sit with like 10, 15 mediums at a time, and I shell out that like $200-$300 just to see if there's somebody real. And unfortunately, in my experience, I have not come across anyone that was accurate.
And what about your little box you have?
My remote viewing box?
Yes.
That was a guess, Taryn. So I have a remote viewing box. Let me see here. There it is.
Lex, two more questions.
So this is my remote viewing box, and I put it up. I've been doing it for years. I put something in there, and I let people, try to remote view. And somebody on one of my shows made a guess, and I had done it right before the show and threw something in there, and they guessed right. But I talked to them afterwards, and it was a guess. It wasn't like a remote viewing. They just guessed something. And it happened to be a Godzilla.
Oh, okay.
That was it.
How do you pull out Godzilla as a guest? Jesus.
I know.
Because I have a bunch in the background too.
Oh, fair enough.
Over here. So.
So just before I go into the next big question, I just want to say, so do you have a world view on mediumship as a whole, or do you just think that? Do you think there are some that could be real, or do you find that everyone's doing this? To you, do you think that everyone's just in it for the same reason?
Well, I don't. Right now, the idea that I have, and I want to explain. Disclaimer: I don't have beliefs. I don't like beliefs because I think beliefs are really hard to change. So I stick with ideas. Mm-hmm. And right now, my idea is that mediumship is not a thing. I don't think everyone is deceptive. I want to make that clear. I don't think everyone is trying to deceive you or, bilk you out of a bunch of money. I don't think that. I think there are a few that genuinely believe that they have some kind of ability. And when I've talked to people like that, it's because of reinforcement from family and friends when they give advice or where they offer general advice. And it's good advice, but it's based on life events and life experience, not necessarily some kind of supernatural power. But on the other side of that, yes, there are people out there that I believe are definite hoaxes. They're in it for the money. They want to take you for as much as they can. They give you a little bit, they charge you money, and then they want you to come back. There's also people out there that use a different tactic and say, I don't charge any money. We can get into this later, but I'll take donations.
Yeah.
Then,
Yeah.
but there's back and forth. And I want to make it clear too that I am friends and have good relationships with a lot of people that claim to be psychic and or mediums.
Yeah.
So it's not like they're taboo. I avoid them at all costs. No, I actually go head first into it and say, hey, let's sit. I'll sit with you. Tell me what you know. But understand that I know what's out there on social media. So if you tell me something that's well known or public, that doesn't count. You got to tell me something else. And I also have other experiments that I can bring out and apply to a situation where I sit down with a psychic or medium. So, but yeah, my worldview is that I don't think it exists, but I'm still ready to see if there is something.
I mean, that's the general. This seems like your general consensus with the paranormal as a whole at the moment, isn't it? So, where you can explain something, that is explained, sorted, ticked. If you can't explain it, it's just I don't know. You don't jump into it's definitely paranormal, but it's I don't know. And then with this one,
the problem with that, and you're on the right track. You really are on the right track, Lex. It's the idea that if you don't know what caused an event, that's your conclusion.
Right.
If you say, "Oh, it's paranormal," you are literally making up a conclusion. And I don't think that's understood. I don't think that's something that's realized. If you say, "Oh, well, you know what? We did this and we did this," it's definitely paranormal. First, the fuck does that mean? Think about it. What the fuck does that mean? Second, what data concluded that it was paranormal? Because if you didn't find a source of what caused your event, your noise, your sighting, your whatever, then you don't know what caused it. Therefore, all you can do is label it, I don't know right now, and wait for more information to come to light.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I just want to jump. We just got a couple more questions that I also want to throw your way. One of them that I found very interesting, and Brian did as well, is when Taryn told us that you look very detailed into the equipment that we use, going as far as to dismantle and rebuild the equipment to research every single part and what it does and how we can corrupt it, or is it corruptible, or how does this work? Are people using it correctly? Can you just dive into that bit a bit more? And if there's anything notable that you can tell us that you found while doing this, and is there a process to it, and why you do this in general?
Wow, that's a complex question. Okay,
I'm a complex man.
I can see that. I mean, you have a full, nice beard there, so very complex. Anyway, so with the equipment, my background is mechanical by trade. Auto mechanic, aircraft mechanic. I build helicopters for a living. So in my trade, I have to know how everything works, why it works that way. And I transfer that onto all the equipment that I use. So when you hand me a piece of quote unquote ghost hunting equipment, I want to know how it works. I don't want to know exactly what you promote it as, because honestly, when you look at all the promotions, where's the backup data? Where's the consumer reports? There are none. Spoiler.
By the way, Bob Christopher just said Rutrow.
I love Bob. I love Bob. Bob's really nice, and I can actually I can give him credit for not being a dick about it. But some of this equipment, like you take it apart. How many times have you seen like ghost hunters buy a piece of equipment because they saw it on TV or they saw another group use it and they immediately use it the same way they saw it being used? They don't question it. They don't question the results. They don't question how they know how to interpret the results, which is a big thing, big deal. They just use it. If it lights up or beeps, fucking ghost. No, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. So when I get a device and somebody sends me a device, which is nice, I've had people over the years donate various equipment to me so I can take it apart. And then that's what I do. I take it apart and see what's inside, see what it does. You know, how does it really work? And I go to the manufacturer and find out how exactly it works. And when you do this, you get a better understanding of what is supposed to happen and what can affect it that doesn't, like, if you're looking for ghosts, but you put it on the floor and have a two-way radio, does that interfere with it? These are questions you have to ask. And for the REM pod, for an EMF meter, yes, a two-way radio will definitely affect that.
I was also told that you could be in the next room walking in your socks, walk across the carpet, and it will set off the REM pod of like certain ions.
Well,
the
not
static
the
ones, maybe.
Or the static. Sorry, I didn't mean ions. I meant static.
So there's difference between the REM pod. The REM pod is actually a junior Thurman circuit. So you can go online. It's a electronics novelty kit. Yeah. That's what it is. It's for electronics. It's for kids. It's for kids to build. But you can buy it for like $15 now. I think $15 or $20. It used to be like just $10, and then you can get it. Do I have it? I think I have a kit over here. No, I don't know where it is. I have a new kit somewhere. I'm still looking for it. Oh, here it is. So that's it. That's that's what's in a REM pod right there. All they do is pretty much add a PVC coupling, which is the base, which is that big cylinder. Yep. And then they add a little bit more lights. And then the early models had glue sticks in the top. The one that I took apart, actually the sticks that lit up, they were glue sticks from a hot glue gun. So what's that?
Why do I remember that? I remember.
For some reason, I remember you're talking about?
What'd you say, Taryn?
The 360 you're talking about?
No, it was the regular one, the older version that had just the four sticks coming out the top.
I remember that.
They were glue sticks. I took it apart, and the pictures that I posted along with the article show you that underneath that resin layer, there were chunks of glue sticks that they actually cut up to fill in the space. So it was you were paying $150, $200 for fucking glue sticks and resin. So good job.
Somebody made a lot of money. So
the static items, the static domes, the static detectors, it's a little transistor inside of it that when there's static electricity around, it closes the circuit and lights up the lights. That's what it is. It's pretty cheap. I think I got 5 or 10 of those circuits for like $1.50. And then was able to build my own. But yeah, that's the one where you can walk across the floor, a carpeted floor, and make it go off.
Yeah.
And there's also that claim. There's a claim where it's like it tells you the direction where the static electricity comes from. That's bullshit. It doesn't. There's no directional capability whatsoever in those devices. So
weird.
That's my reason for that is to make people better informed consumers. Yeah, that's what it is. Because these items are expensive. Mm-hmm. They're expensive. You can build a lot of this stuff by yourself for less than $20. But when you're spending $150, $200, $250, $300 on an item, you really should be informed.
Yeah, because I'm looking at a REM pod now on Ghost Shop, and it's 140 quid, £140 in the UK. That's a lot of money.
don't buy this. You get it off of MedLab or MadLab.com. Get it. It's 20. I think it's $20 now. And build it yourself. It takes about a half hour to build it yourself.
Because I did the same thing with you. I think I've mentioned it on live shows before. With there's 2 K2 meters that I've seen knocking around. There's the black handheld one or the grey one, the one with the four. It's got the lights on the top. See if you've got one to hand there.
I know I got one. Hold on. No millimeter.
No, just so people know what I'm on about.
Yes, so much.
I have so much shit here. Honestly.
But most of the people in the chat should know which one I'm talking about. It's the black handheld one. Brian, you've got it. I've got one. And I was using those because they were ones I couldn't see obvious ways to manipulate it. But okay. I did tell people on a live stream. I was like, the one thing you can do, because I watched someone's YouTube video, and you can see the bottom of their video. You can see the antenna of the radio. Yeah. So I was like, they're just pressing the button and it makes it go off. And I've told people they can do that. Hopefully people have trust in me that when they watch my videos, they know that I don't do that, but it is a way that it can be done. So I did speak about that. The other one I like, that I've seen a lot more, and Jody Dean uses this one. Someone who I notoriously don't like. It's the orange nibbed one. Have you seen that one?
Oh yes.
And
yeah.
This one's
clear
great.
Body.
That's the one.
Yeah.
And this one's great because it has this is like red flag number 1. If it has a sensitivity dial on the side of it, and if you turn that up all the way, everything sets it off. Like
yes.
you take a step forward and that thing goes nuts. So
another thing with that, you have to pay attention because it only goes to, I think, 7 milligauss. There's a specific range. You have to look at the specs because that in particular has a very low range, and it's useless. I know analog is like it's how it started really, but you're not getting a precise reading. And with those, I mean, we can talk all night, but with those, it's a single axis meter, meaning that you can hold it this way and get a reading, but you turn it slightly, it changes the reading completely.
Interesting.
So when ghost hunters are going in the room and they're like, "Oh, let's do base readings." Okay, we're done in this room, and they walk out. No, you didn't get a base reading.
Before we go to the next question, I just want to ask, what are your thoughts on the SB7?
It's a broken radio. That's basically what it is. It's a broken radio set to scan through radio frequencies. That's about it. That's all I can really say about it.
Do you have any, like, I know like there's, you can go to a certain place or something like that and you're going to catch a radio station and stuff like that. But, when I go into a certain place and I ask a question through the SB7 and it's actually saying my name, because I went to one place that said my name 3 times, and that's like, to me, and it said the name twice in a row. And I literally asked it what my name was, and it said Brian, then it said Brian again.
So I'm going to pick on you a little bit here.
Okay.
First, it said your name 3 times.
Well, it said something else, and then it said it again.
Okay. But the first time it said your name 3 times.
Yeah.
So this is how anal I can be with this kind of stuff, because you have to
let me clarify then. Let me clarify then. So it said my name twice, then it said something else, and then it said my name again.
Okay. So with this kind of thing, the first thing you need to do is realize that you're using a radio.
Yeah.
That's its function. It is a radio receiver. And I'm doing the whole William Shatner kind of pause here because I want to make sure it sinks in. It's a fucking radio receiver. Okay. So it's made to receive signals. And if you include that, you have tainted data. You don't have good data, first off, because you're getting radio signals coming in. So if you put that in, the first thing you have to do is put it in a good Faraday box. and not the cheap bags that you get on Amazon. They don't work.
Okay.
Like I built a Faraday box myself, and I made sure that it blocks AM and FM. AM are much smaller signals, much smaller wavelength, so it's easier to get in. But you have to make sure you block out those radio signals.
Okay.
Because if you're using them, you're getting radio signals.
Is that kind of like what Ron and Lourdes use, that DRV thing? Because they said that it does it what the heck was the word they used? Well, basically they said it doesn't use radio waves, but it's kind of like, you know, like an SB7, but doesn't use radio waves. I couldn't figure out how that would work, but
we'd have to see what the specs are on it, like
Yeah.
what's it picking up. And that's the problem. You have to see what kind of frequency range it is. And I don't know what this device is that you're talking about, Taryn, but if we get the specs, then maybe we can go look into it a little more.
yeah.
But the first thing you have to do is block them out. Block out what you know is terrestrial, which is the radio frequencies that we broadcast.
If you have some time, I know you don't have a lot of time, but I put the video up on YouTube, and at the beginning when I turned on the SB7, I asked it to say my name. It said my name twice, and then it said something else, and then it said my name again. So I just want to make that clear. So what I'm curious about, and a lot of people talk about the SB7 and the SB11 and the difference between the two, and I just find that, and this is why I wanted to ask you about the SB7, because I want to be a better investigator when I'm going out there, and if I'm using a certain product or something like that. So I don't use a lot of products. I generally use the recorder, I use my camera, and I use the SB7. And sometimes I'll use the cat balls with the bells in them. And so I don't use a lot of, what's that?
Cat balls? Oh, Jesus.
I've used them 3 times, but I just find that, it's just something that I prefer more than the cat balls that light up. I don't use those. I use the ones with the bells in them.
So with your name being said, this goes back to this. Actually, we didn't get into this, but it really gets into controlled experiments. You need to control the environment. First of all, you go in, and whether you want to admit it or not, you go in with a bias. And we all have biases. We all have filters that we go into.
I agree with that. Yeah.
So when you ask a question or when you say something, you hear static noise, you hear snippets. You're not getting good audio. You're getting it's cycling through all these stations. So you're getting snippets of these radio stations. You're getting static in between.
Okay.
Yes, you're going to hear a lot of weird shit.
Yeah.
But are we sure that you're hearing your name? And before you answer that, there's other things that sound like your name.
Yep.
Ryan, trying.
I agree.
Crying.
I agree.
There's other words that sound like that. So honestly, the best experiment you could do would be go to a location and set up a whole bunch of separate radios dialed into every frequency that is accessible at that point. Record it all, and then do your spirit box or ghost box session and timestamp everything and match it up and see if the response that you get was that broadcast on any of the stations in line with what their regular programming is. And we're talking about talk radio, we're talking about commercials, and commercials can span everything. Furniture, names, you talk about news. You got tragedies, you got names, ages, dates, all this kind of stuff. Everything you can imagine that would come over that as an answer to your question will come over.
Interesting.
So you need
a different perspective that
obviously,
like I said, when I go to, and the great thing is I have 2 SB7s, so I'm bringing them both when I go to the UK. So we'll definitely try that. But I just want to get a different perspective on how you feel. And I don't take any offense by what you say at all.
That's good.
I think at the end of the day, I think you just become a better investigator.
And that's what it is.
More.
It's coming down to details. And because you're always going to have someone like me look at your evidence or your data, because it's not evidence yet. Look at your data and say, well, how did you get that? How can you support this data? What else did you do? What controls were in place at the time? And if you say, well, I just put it out on a table and I let it record, that's not science.
Yeah,
and it's just not going to fly.
Yeah, just going back to the constructive criticism. I'm an actor in Toronto. You have to deal with constructive criticism all the time.
You're an actor.
Yeah.
Do you have an IMDb page? Oh, yes,
I do.
You do. I looked it up.
I do. Thank you.
He said, yes, I looked it up.
Part of my background check.
It doesn't surprise me.
No. So I definitely could take constructive criticism, and I enjoy that. And I think for me personally, and I don't know how anybody else feels, the more you learn, and I want to make sure I get this out. I'm learning from you, and I'm taking what you're saying and bringing it here, and thinking of when I go on to an investigation, I'm going to think, what would Kenny say right now?
I'm going to send you a t-shirt. What would Kenny do?
Oh my God.
WWKD.
Yep.
Because I don't know if you know this, because I'm going to the UK in March, and we're doing a bunch of locations over a month period. And I want to go into these investigations thinking, okay, well, I'm now taking a better look, or thinking of different ways on maybe how I should approach something instead of the way I've been approaching it in the past. And it might be a completely different investigation now. So
and I also want to add something Dave said in the comments.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Get a third party. If you get a recording of an alleged EVP, take out the question, first of all, because when you put that question in, you insert context, you insert possible contextual cues. So if you have a question like, what's your name? Naturally, people are going to listen for a name. And no matter what they hear, what kind of noise they hear, they're going to listen for a name and try to make out a name. So I would take out the question and send it to a third party and say, hey, I have this recording. Tell me what you think you hear. But don't prime them. Priming is something, if you don't know, priming is something like when you watch the reality shows and they're like, oh, we got this awesome EVP, and they play it, but put the text on the bottom of the screen of what you're supposed to hear. That's the wrong way to do it, because that's, as soon as you read that, that's what you're going to hear. So you don't want to do that.
Interesting.
And Dave's right. You send it out to a third party and say, hey, give me your opinion. What's this? Do you hear anything? Don't even say like, what's this say? Because now you're telling them that it says something.
Right.
Like, just ask, what do you hear? Do you hear anything? I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I did. I did a
Thanks,
investigation about 3 weeks ago at it's like a bar / restaurant / inn, everything. And I caught something upstairs on my recorder, and I asked everybody what it was, and everybody had a different answer.
Mm-hmm.
And that tells you something.
Yeah.
That tells you something, that it's not definite. It's not this, like, I hate that classification system that ghost hunters have, like class A, B, and C bullshit, because it's really subjective. It depends on who's listening to it, what they're thinking at the time, if they're primed for it, and how many times they've heard it. Because once you decide what you hear, after that, you hear it every time. So you're convinced. And then you put it out to other people and say, hey, I hear, go fuck yourself. I hear that. Do you hear that? That's awesome. And they hear it, and they validate, which is another word that I can't stand. And then you have this EVP that is confirmed, but it's not. It's subjective at best.
Yeah. Jay's right. When in doubt, throw it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's one more thing I just want to get your opinion on before I let Brian introduce the next segment or question, whichever one. EVPs that you pick up on camera microphones, some of them very clear as day. You can definitely make out what they're saying. Even doing the same thing you've said, showing people, not even asking questions, but you're filming a room by itself and you've left the house and you can you pick up a voice or on a voice recorder. How do you class? Would they be the? Have you got an idea on those, or would those just be in your I don't know section on how that phenomenon appears?
So there's several things you can go with this. I mean, the most obvious is the I don't know, because if you have one data point, which is one recorder that picks it up, or one video camera that picks it up, you have one data point to go off of. You don't know what's behind that video camera. You don't know what's in another room. We're not talking about it. Well, we have to get into specifics of the room or the building that it's in, because if you have people above or below you, if there are people in other rooms, if there's traffic or public access outside of that room, as in like it's people can walk on the street outside, you have all these factors that you have to consider. And you can't just say, oh, well, I got this mysterious voice, it must be from a ghost, it must be EVP. You can't determine that from one source. You have to have multiple sources or something to back it up, because even though, and I'm not saying this is what you do or anyone else does, but we have this scenario where I can say, well, I took this video of this room, and say I have, the view that you see, I have it on this camera, and it picked up a voice that says, Kenny is handsome. I don't know. Ghost might say it. There's no way I can prove that that's legitimately from a non-physical entity. There's no way I can prove that someone's not behind the camera and whispering that. And these are the things that you need to consider when you're presenting alleged evidence. How can you back it up? How can you, determine or how can you, what's the word I'm looking for? How can you justify that no one was there? Because we hear that a lot. No one was in the building. No one was in the room. How do I know that? Just by taking your word for it? That doesn't work. Not that I think you're a dishonest person, but I can't just take your word for it, because you might be mistaken. Or you might be lying. It happens. Yeah. We've seen it happen. I've seen it happen hundreds of times. This is what we have to do. We have to back up everything. If you want to say like, hey, this came from this camera that was in this corner, you should have another camera in the other corner on that camera, just to verify, okay, no one was in the room at this time, with timestamps. And even that gets tricky a little bit. Yeah. There's so much to think about. And I know I'm probably being a downer. And I'm like, and people are watching this going, fuck, there's nothing that's going to convince you. Actually, there is. But you just have to do the work. You really have to put the work in and understand what people are going to ask for. This is not, there's people in the chat room. I know Dave Schumacher is in the chat room, and Dave has a scientific background, and we consulted. He's one of the co-hosts on a show that I do. And he's really good with the details of this kind of stuff. And there's a lot involved. This is not your 4 or 5 hour ghost hunt hobby that you do, on a Saturday night. That's for fun. That's for thrills.
Yeah, I agree.
It's not scientific in any way. It's not evidence in any way, because there's so much wrong with it. There's so many variables that are not accounted for. And if you want to be taken seriously, then I suggest you start reading the scientific literature and listening to people when they criticize, because it's not done in spite. It's not done in spite. It's done because we want you to do better.
I agree.
I think that's the only way that it's going to get anywhere. It feels so stagnant right now.
It's funny. I was there's this church that's probably about 30 minutes away from me, and one night I went there, and I put the camera on the piano, because there's a piano in there, and I was really hoping I was going to catch the piano playing, and I did catch what sounded like to be the key playing, like just one key. And then another time I went there, I put the camera on the piano by itself in the room, and I captured "Please Come Back." But then on another time I went there, I left another room and I captured the exact same voice saying, please come back, leaving another room. So I just find it interesting because I can say that I captured this, but you're right. I'm not saying I did this because I didn't do this, but who's to say somebody's behind the camera just saying that?
Right.
You know, and I completely understand that. I don't do that, just to make it clear.
And see, based on what you just said, and I'm not picking on you. Even
No,
though
I know you're not. I don't take it that
totally
way.
am.
Oh, okay. Are you?
When you mentioned you caught the exact same voice, how did you determine that?
Just by sound and
By
listening to it.
By
Yeah.
listening. So
Yeah.
this is your opinion.
Yeah.
And it's subjective. There's no data to back that up. So
Okay.
this is the kind of question that in science you would be asked. How did you determine? And that's it. And I credit my buddy Tim Vickers for this. How do you know? How do you know that? That's the best question that you can ask in any situation. How do you know this?
Yeah.
So when people make statements like it was the exact same voice as before, how do you know this? I'm not trying to be a dick. I want to know. I want to know exactly.
I'm not taking it that way. I'd rather you ask me than just go on and say, "Oh, cool, that's really cool."
And it usually has the same effect that it did on you. Like your face was like,
yeah, and it's true. It's true. It's very true, and I agree with it. I agree with it.
This is the kind of thing everyone needs to start asking.
Yeah.
How do you know that? And push for it.
Yeah, and you know what? And this is what I said a few minutes ago. This is like talking to you and thinking about what you're saying is going to make me think when I'm doing something on an investigation, not only when I'm doing the investigation, but if I'm going through the editing process of the video, you know, and I love this kind of stuff because it gives me a different perspective on how I approach something.
Good.
So please I don't think you're picking on me, or maybe you are.
I mean, I was going to say we might have to change this episode title to Huntophobia Exposed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So I just want to one more small yes or no question for you from me. Fuck you, dude. I'm going to ask it anyway.
Now we're friends. Now we're friends.
But with all this testing you're doing and this questioning you're doing and the experiments you've done in this field, do you want it to be real?
Yes.
And that's what I think is important.
I mean, deep down, I would love to find something that's awesome. That's just like, holy fuck. I would love a ghost to just pop in front of me and go, hey, Dick, here I am.
You are real.
Ghost, if you could do that for me now so we can catch that on this stream, it'd be great.
I welcome that. And that's the thing. I welcome this. That's why I continue. I'm not a cynic. I'm not a just dismisser. If you bring me a claim, I'm going to listen to you, you know, and we're going to talk about it. But I would love for something to happen. If somebody comes to me and says, oh, well, if you come to this place, you're going to see demons and angels and ghosts and whatever. I'm like, yeah, let's go. Lead the way. I'll follow you. But in most cases, it stops there.
Yeah.
I actually don't get invited. But I'm willing to go out and show me the fucking money. That's what I'm asking. Yeah. And I love that. It's not like I'm going to dismiss it or I'm going to tell you no.
Yeah.
Show me. You know, this is not, I don't give a shit about your anecdote. Honestly. I mean, when it comes down to, you can tell me all the stories you want. Cool story, bro.
Somebody's challenging you, Kenny.
Show me.
But this is
somebody right now.
Said,
in the chat.
I can make that happen for you. I can make a dead relative come to you if you want me to.
Go ahead. Right here. I'm waiting. There's actually a brave relative I would love to see.
Brave thing to do, and we're challenging it.
Now, just to ask you, who would that be so she can do it?
No, not allowed. That's priming. That's priming.
Can't tell you that.
The what?
No. Okay.
Oh, you're saying
maybe I could phrase this better then. No, okay, I won't do it.
Yeah. But this is why I wanted to ask that question. So I wanted people to really understand that you're not doing this to make us look stupid or make us look like we're faking things or making us look like we're lying or all of us are lying. I know some of us are lying. Yeah, it's very
some
evident.
people are
Very,
doing
it's
it
just
on
very,
purpose.
very fucking evident. Some people are really profiting off of the lie. Assholes. But what I will say, but this is why it was important, because when I knew you were coming on, the one thing, like, I love people who are very skeptical about it. Well, my best friend is a massive skeptic. Like, he's not a skeptic in terms of he's not looking for proof himself and quite doing what you're doing and proving it to himself that these certain ways that this could be that, this is happening because of this, and this is happening because of this. He doesn't do that. He just doesn't believe in it. Period. He doesn't. Unless it comes up and punches him in the face, he won't believe in it. Like, he's very adamant. But I love having him around because when I get to show him stuff and I see him kind of pause for a minute, and then he shoots me down. Then he's like, "Nope, it's this." I'm like, "All right, cheers, mate." But I think it's very important that it's very important to see that you're doing it because you're skeptical because you haven't found dead on proof yet and scientifically proved it. And the scientific word is the very important word in what you're doing, is that you treat this like we should treat this, like a science experiment where you have a hypothesis, you have an experiment, you have results, and you have facts.
I have to say, I'm going to interject here. I am very happy to hear you say it that way, because so many people come out with they come out with both guns blazing, saying the theory is, and they dismiss and skip over the hypothesis.
Yeah.
So it's refreshing to hear you say that.
I've come from a science background and I love science, and I think the scientific point of view is why I'm so interested in proving it to myself as well, because I'd love for science to prove it. I think the same way that I'd love science to prove God, to be honest, but something that we know will never happen. But I would love that. Like, science is powerful. Everything we have is thanks to science. So yeah,
we're talking because of science.
Could be exactly technology. Yeah. So you have to, the fact that you treat it like a science experiment properly is very refreshing to see it from a skeptical view. A lot of people are skeptics for the sake of just telling us we're full of shit, and they don't want to go out there and find out for themselves, and they don't do what you do, and they look into how it works. And it's very refreshing to see a skeptical side of things from a scientific perspective, and I really like. And it has some of the stuff you said today has really made me question stuff that I've seen in videos, or I've made the mistake of annotating my YouTube videos for the EVPs, and it's now something that I'm now going to look at, and I'm like, I'm not going to put them there. What I might do is wait till the end of the video. And my video is like an hour long, so they've got to watch the whole video to find out what the EVP might say, what I think it said. And I might even just say, this is what I think it said, and it'll be right at the end of the video, not in the first bit with the EVP. It might not even do it at all. Put it in the comments section.
Yeah, you know what? I was actually thinking the same thing.
I'll have my own notebook with timestamps on my video with what I think it said, and then I'm going to read the comment section. I'm like, 8 people heard the same thing. Done. But
you know what? I'm thinking about making because I got a second part coming out on a video. I'm thinking about doing it a completely different way now than what I normally do.
Yeah.
So
not to pander,
and that's great. And I think that's great. What's that?
I'm not to pander to Kenny. I'm not saying that he's come here and he's changed my life and I'm going to change.
No. I understand.
I want to hear that.
You know what?
It's going to allow this dude. But
you know what? It's one person's opinion. It's one person's opinion, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, but we've learned. I mean, if people, opinions are strong, we've all heard that my opinions on certain people, I make it very clear what I think about things people do. And
yeah, but that's only because of your hatred of that person.
Not all of them. I don't hate all of them. I've said it before. I don't hate Omar. I think he's probably a nice guy. I just don't like the fact he's basing his money on lies.
Well, no, you hate. You know what? You hate Jody Dean.
Yeah, fuck him. I hate him with a passion, but
and that's who I was referring to.
Yeah. So I don't hate on them to hate on them. I hate on some of them for what they do. But anyway, I'll let you guys move on with the show because we have been on for a very long time.
Yeah, we have been on a long time.
Told you.
It's fine. Yeah, I know. It just went on.
Kenny's easy to talk. I mean,
it's Super Bowl night, guys. The Super Bowl is on tonight.
Yeah. And okay. You guys feel the same way that I do about the Super Bowl.
I don't care.
I have no interest in football whatsoever. So I just want to point out American football. So because of Lex's English football, right? So
You mean the
okay,
real?
so right now we are going to be, and I know this is going to be a touchy subject for some people that are in the room, and for some people that are going to be watching the replays. There is a particular reason why we're doing this. In the last month and a half or so, and you know what, I feel bad for a particular person that's in the room right now. This person was on her show, and she felt very, I would say, very affected by that. I think she's been on a little bit of a, what would you call it, Taryn?
Oh,
Alcoholic binge.
a headhunt. A headhunt.
Yeah, I was actually thinking for more of a not nice, more of a nicer word, but this gentleman doesn't deserve anything nice to say about him. And we don't normally, like, we have done shows in the past where we call out people for what they do on paranormal investigations, but this is a whole different avenue, if I could say that. What this man has done over the last 5 to 6 years, and we're talking 5 to 6 years and
Maybe
longer. Well, no, when it comes to the paranormal field, it's been about 5 or 6 years, it looks like. Am I wrong?
I think I found what
18.
no, 2015.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Was
So about 7 years he's been playing this game. And so I think everybody pretty well, a lot of people know online right now, especially through Facebook. This gentleman claims on interviewing Ted Bundy. He also claims to have been pen pals with certain serial killers. There's been information found, and Kenny and Taryn have been working on this for about a month and a bit to not necessarily. You know what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you guys do your thing and do what you need to do. And Taryn's going to ask you some questions, and we'll just go from there. You okay with that, Taryn?
Yeah, I mean, like I think I can start it because I mean, like I said, he was on my show, and you know, when I first started interviewing him. Now, granted, let me tell you, he was supposed to be on my show in December, and he rescheduled. So from September until he was actually on my show in January, he was messaging me every day, every day. And then, so I kind of, you know, I feel responsible somehow that this kind of like went, you know, kept going, but that's my goal, is to stop him. And I did give him the opportunity to do so. I confronted him. And I said, you know, you need to come clean, be honest, or I'm going to do it. Or show me proof. Show me proof of all of your claims that you're saying. This isn't just somebody claiming to be a psychic medium and I know he's faking, you know? I mean, he's claiming to have worked with the FBI, police, the Attorney General in Florida for 35 years. He's claiming that he's a Benedictine saint, a shaman, a psychic medium, forensic psychologist, social worker. Both he claims to be degreed, and that he was pen pals with Jeffrey Dahmer, the BTK killer, Ted Bundy, and there was one other one. I forget.
Sam.
Son of Sam.
Yeah.
He claims that he interviewed Ted Bundy while he was at school in Florida, by you know, to go to school in Florida to be a psychologist or a criminal profiler, whatever. And it's not whatever. I know that's
Well, first of all, sorry, Taryn, I'm sorry I'm cutting you off. Before we go any further, we haven't said the man's name. I'm going to say the man's name. The man's name is Robert Riggi.
Yeah, Robert
I
Riggi.
I think most people know what's going on with Robert Riggi. But
I'm sorry, I apologize. I thought I said his name.
No, that's okay. But the reason we're doing it now, because Kenny here has found out a lot of information. He's made a lot of phone calls. He's done a lot of research. And is it true and I'm sorry, I don't want to speak out of tongue here. Are you planning on doing an article on this gentleman?
Yep.
Okay. So I think what we should get into, and there's a lot of information, and Kenny, I know you found a lot of information, and you don't have to go over everything. What I think you should do is kind of put it into a small little bag and just, you know what I mean? Like, I know there's a lot, and I understand
There's no
that,
doggy bag for this shit.
yeah, I know. But,
Well, and that's the thing. Like I when I was doing my interview with him, it started out fine, and then he said something that just kind of made it gave me like this feeling in my gut where I was like, that's he said about how first he was telling how he worked for the police for 35 years. And then a couple like some down the road, he's talking about how he called the police at one point when there was a missing girl named Jessica. Oh no, he didn't even say her name. He said there was a missing girl in Florida and they hung up on him every time. So I asked him, I said, why would they on the private chat, I asked him, I said, why would they ignore you if they know you and you're working with them? And he gave me this big, long, drawn out answer, which never answered the question.
yeah, I
Basically,
think sorry, go ahead.
well, it reminded me of another person early on in 2017 when I first started Paranormal Brew. And I didn't even know Kenny was looking into him, but his name was his name's not even that, but his name was Constantine St. Michael. And when he started to talk about working under the, as a criminal profiler, it reminded me of that. So then from there, it just started to get worse and worse and worse. And my first call was to Kenny for help because I Googled him, and at that time I couldn't really find anything, but me and Kenny started to work on it.
What I kind of meant by what I was trying to say, and I know it's not in a small doggy bag and stuff like that, but what I was saying is like some of his things that he says on his podcast seemed like the Ted Bundy one, the working with the FBI, working with the police, he's licensed in 15 states, and there's all kinds of different things. I think what I'm trying to say to you is that those things that he's saying a lot of, and he repeats himself all the time, you have found information regarding all of those things. And at the end of the day, what?
Fake.
He's false. All of it.
That's the ultimate summary. It's fake.
Yeah.
All of it.
So this all started because of Taryn.
Yes.
You're getting the blame. Anyway, no. After your show, she reached out to me, and honestly, your first question was, how do you investigate people? Like, how do you look into people? Because she didn't know, and I have a history of doing this. The gentleman Constantine St. Michael that she mentioned, I wrote an article about that because I delved into his past. He claimed to have worked with murder cases that the Attorney General of Pennsylvania had to reopen, which right away is a red flag because murder cases don't close. They don't ever, you don't have to reopen them. They stay open if they're not solved. So I investigated him and his claims and found out that everything he was saying was bullshit. And he has since disappeared, which is good. There's no one's heard of him since then, which is good. But this came up.
Yeah. No, I was going to say I think I want people to understand the main reason why we're doing this is because we don't want this gentleman to go out there and get involved with other families on his lies, because that's basically what he's been saying he's doing. He's contacted families, or families are contacting him. For me personally, this man is dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
He's dangerous.
Yeah.
And people need to stay away from him.
He's got a subtle invitation that he promotes. It's a very subtle invitation that he has this expertise, and he's inviting parents that may have children that they think may be gifted or special or something like that. And we're talking about psychic / medium kind of thing here, that if they develop these abilities, that they may feel lost or alone or this and that, and to contact him for guidance. So that's the main issue I have, is because he's encouraging parents to contact him for their children, and he's giving a background that does not is not verified, is not for the best of my ability, is not legitimate.
Not at all.
We can get into that. We're going to get into that.
Yeah. How many times has this man been arrested?
So I want to say from the start, I don't want to focus too much on this, but he does have a criminal background. And
I was just curious because I think because there might have been more that you found that I didn't find.
The reason I want to address this is that because someone did confront him about his record, and he denied it. He denied everything. The problem that I think Mr. Rigi isn't aware of is that his record comes with mugshots. So we were able to see his picture.
Right.
I'm sorry I'm laughing. It's funny to me that your picture is attached to these records. So we see you through the years. It is you.
Mm-hmm.
There's no doubt. It is you.
And it was fraud. Felonies.
There was
2 felonies.
2 thefts. There was failure to appear in court. There's a lot of stuff.
He had a didn't he have a he was a fugitive from Iowa too.
Yes.
But then they caught up with him in Illinois.
He didn't appear in court when he was supposed to, so he's labeled a fugitive from justice. So yeah, he does have a record, and it looks like it takes place between like 1991 and 2000, like 1, 2, or 3, somewhere around there.
Yeah, somewhere.
So there's a decade at least, which, in my opinion, only in my opinion, I think he makes up for by making these claims of becoming a monk, serving at some kind of shelter or something like that.
Mother Teresa taught him too.
Yes, there's a lot. There's a lot that goes with this, and honestly, his story, his background story, evolves. There's a definite path of evolution when you listen to the podcast, and that's something that Taryn and I have gone through, where she sends me links, and we've listened to podcasts. I've listened to at least like 14, 15 podcasts where he has been on. And honestly, I'm so fucking tired of hearing his voice.
I know, me too.
In my head, because it's the same story. It's a cookie cutter story, which is a red flag for me. Because when you're saying the same details, when you're saying the same jokes, when you're saying the same comparisons and analogies, the same over and over again, like no deviation, except once in a while, there's a little bit added onto it as it progresses.
Yeah,
that's a red flag to me.
Yeah, and I just want to say, he didn't say all of this stuff on my show, or else I would have been like, what? The only thing I did question was he said this for the first time he ever saw a ghost was Abraham Lincoln at 4 years old. And
Let's talk about that.
I said, wait a minute. I said, at 4 years old, you knew who Abraham Lincoln was? He's like, yeah, I live in Illinois. This is where he's from, or lives, or something. He said something. I don't. It's like there was Abraham Lincoln's all over, pictures all over the place.
So most of his origin story, which is what I'm going to call it, his origin story, happens when he was 4 years old. And he tells the same story, again, exactly the same details, where he woke up, he had to pee at like between 12 and 4 in the morning. It changes with each podcast. So he had to go up and pee, and he met this apparition that was in the hallway. And the apparition didn't speak to him, but he recognized it as Abraham Lincoln because he grew up in Illinois, and apparently everyone in Illinois has a picture of Abraham Lincoln on their wall. I don't know if that's true. I don't know. He also mentions that he had Lincoln logs growing up, and his picture was on there. I had Lincoln logs, didn't have a picture of Lincoln on it.
I had Lincoln logs.
It had a picture of a little boy and a little girl, depending on what side of the can you were on.
I'm not sure what that is. What is Lincoln logs?
Lincoln logs they're blocks. They're kind of like Legos that look like sections of wood.
Yeah.
Okay.
Logs of wood that you would put together to make a log cabin.
Oh, okay.
And it was just a toy
that
Yeah, for kids, but
grew up
like a
with.
long
Yeah.
time ago. Yeah.
So I like this comment in the room. Awkward time to meet Abraham Lincoln while going to the bathroom.
Okay. All right.
So there is a podcast that he did October 1st. And this is how anal I can be, is that I have all the podcasts that I listen to and I have timestamps of when he made statements. So in the beginning of this podcast on October 1st, 2019, he was on a podcast called Stories of the Paranormal. Now, the previous 12, 13, 14 podcasts that I listened to, he mentions meeting Abraham Lincoln. And it's like either he woke up his parents or his parents woke up because they heard him walking around. That's changes too. And when he tells them what he saw, it was Abraham Lincoln. In this particular story on this podcast, again, Stories of the Paranormal, look it up. October 1st, 2019. His story changes. It's not Abraham Lincoln that he meets. It's simply a man that tells him his name is Lucas. So that's a big deal. It may not sound like a major detail, but it's a big deal. Yeah. You changed your origin story.
Okay.
And then we move on to other podcasts, to other claims that he made. We can go any direction you want.
Go ahead. You guys are please. So I want to get this out here too. So is he teaching in Scotland for 9 months?
No. we can actually address that right now.
Okay.
In a private message that he sent to Taryn, he claimed that he was invited to speak on the topic of parapsychology at the University of Edinburgh.
Yeah, I got the same one.
And I think, you got the same one? No shit.
Yeah.
Oh, this is great.
Yeah.
So I know if Dave Schumacher is in the chat room, he's going to love this part. Yeah. So I reached out to them. Actually, I reached out to Lloyd Arabak, who is a friend of mine. I've actually taught a course with him on skepticism and parapsychology. But I reached out to him and said, hey, who do you know at this university that I can contact? And he directed me to two people, one of which was Caroline Watt, who is the chair and professor of parapsychology at University of Edinburgh. So I reached out to them. She responded to me. And her first response was, nope, I don't know this guy. There are only two people that lecture here, and he is definitely not one of him. I don't know who he is, never heard of him. And she asked for proof. What proof did he offer? And then unfortunately, I was embarrassed to say, well, he just said it in a private message. Yeah. He's saying it, but he's making that claim. And obviously he's making that claim to several hosts, not just one. So that's done. That's a complete fabrication. He's not doing that.
Okay. So what about the I'm just going to ask you, and then you can just let me know. So what about the claims? What are the claims of the archdiocese that he did these seances?
All right, this is good. So
it's good when Kenny laughs before he has to tell you.
Major things here. The evolution or the cycle that you have to follow. You have to first contact your own parish if you think something's up. So that would be the parish, the Diocese of Peoria, which I have a call in. I'm waiting for them to call back. And then he claims that these were sanctioned by the Archdiocese of Chicago. So I have a call in with them. I'm waiting for them to get back. And that's what I kept hearing a lot, because when he describes this whole situation, because he describes the exorcism of Kevin, and he claims Kevin is the real first name, but not the last name. He doesn't give the last name. But the exorcism of Kevin takes place, and then they brought up a Monsignor that he knows that's a friend of his, and they went to visit Kevin, and they go through all these details, which again, every podcast exactly the same. There's no deviation. But when he gets to the actual exorcism, he name drops a priest. And that's important. That's important to me, to us, to you guys, because he name drops Father Michael. And Father Michael, common name, but he gives further description. He says, this is the Father Michael that appeared in Zach Bagans' Demon House documentary, which is actually a mockumentary because it's bullshit.
Sorry, that's my own opinion there.
That's okay.
Totally. I
So,
agree.
This identifies the priest. I mean, this positively IDs the priest that we're talking about here. There's no mistaking who it is. It's Father Michael from this specific parish who's doing it. And he gives us whole detail about how Father Michael is the main exorcist, that he performs the exorcist on Kevin, and that there is another podcast where he mentions a woman named Vivian. This is the second exorcism that he participated in. And he name drops Father Michael as actually being the main exorcist on that too. So what I did was call Father Michael, because that's what you do as an investigator. You go to the source. I called Father Michael, and Father Michael, I got to say right off the bat, very nice gentleman, nice guy. I explained who I was, what I was doing. And I said, this is being said of you. And I would like your opinion on this. My first question to him, and this is good. This is actually from a friend of mine, Jimmy Aiken, who appeared on my show. He told me, ask, hey, how do you know Robert Rigi? That's what I did. And the response was, who? So that tells you right away, like, something's wrong. So we got into it. I actually sent him links to podcasts where he's mentioned. And we talked a little bit. He said he was going to listen to them and he was going to get back to me. He called me the next morning and we spoke on the phone. And he's like, yes, I can absolutely confirm. I have no idea who this guy is. I never did an exorcism on a person named Kevin. And if he was going to do an exorcism, it would not be anywhere except for his own church. Now, I want to clarify that Mr. Rigi claims that the exorcism was performed in a Jesuit monastery attached to a hospital in Maywood, Illinois. Not true. Not true at all. All of this was refuted by the priest that he names. And furthermore, Father Michael explained to me that many of the details that he gives about the exorcism were false. Like, some of it was true, but most of it could be read. Like, you can read up on that. You can get ideas like, oh, how is an exorcism performed? And that's true. But many of the other details, like more personal details, were false. Mm-hmm. So as far as I'm concerned, no, these exorcisms did not happen. He was not involved with them if they did happen. And the priest he names specifically, and that's important, he name drops somebody, which you don't fucking do.
Right.
If you're chatting shit, you don't do that.
You just don't do that. So that's completely false. Completely false.
Okay. Anything else you would like to share that Robert has said that is definite? What's that?
A ton of shit.
Okay.
All right.
Go ahead then.
Well, we'll go into, so he claims to be a forensic psychologist and a clinical social worker. So he has 2 master's degrees. I'm still waiting. I contacted the registrar at the University of Florida. I'm waiting for a response from them. But he also makes comments where he specifically states that he's licensed in Florida and he's also licensed in South Dakota. These are the 2 states that he names specifically. And that's important because I also want to point out that, and I have this highlighted here, November 10th, 2021, he claims to be licensed in 9 states. Stay with me here. In January 15th, 2022. So we're only talking about, 2 months? Mm-hmm. 2 months later, he claims to be licensed in 10 states. So he gained 1. 3 months later, on another podcast, he claims to be licensed in 12 states. So he's gaining ground every time he says this. So
the last one I heard it was 15. Yeah.
I was going to say the last one I saw him on, he said he was licensed in 15 states.
Yeah. So what I did was the first thing I did was actually I contacted. Let me make sure. Let me pull it up so I have the most accurate information that I can give you. Let's see, Department of Labor, no, Department of Health, University of Florida. Oh, Robert Rigi. So for Florida, I reached out to the Florida Department of Health because, unbeknownst to him, you can actually check licenses of psychologists in every state. And that's what I did. I contacted the Office of Communications, Florida Department of Health, and I asked about a Robert Rigi, if he was currently or had ever been licensed in that state. And that's his major claim, that he was a criminal profiler for 35 years and that he was licensed in the state of Florida. The response was, we were unable to find any evidence of Robert Rigi ever holding a license with the Department of Health in the state of Florida. So, no, he was not licensed in there. That's where he claims to have gotten his degree, and we can talk about that later. He also specifically mentions South Dakota. So I called them, contacted them, and let me see, verification of license. So I talked to the executive assistant in South Dakota, and she told me, I asked the same thing. I said, hey, this guy claimed that he has a license as a psychologist in your state. And she said, no, I am not finding anyone in our database by that last name. Nothing. So I actually did, I did a state-by-state search. I don't know if you can see that. So these are states that I started going through. Florida, South Dakota, Iowa, Nebraska, because he also claims to have lived there. And I know that he lived there at one time. Indiana, Kentucky, California, because he said he was out there for a while, Alabama, Georgia, Colorado. That's the ones I went through so far and checked for a license in his name. No, he does not have a license in any of those states. So I'm going to continue to go through these states and see if there's a license. I doubt that I'm going to find it, but I'm going to make sure.
I'm pretty sure that you're not going to find it. I think it's a pretty safe bet you're not going to find it. And I know you like to do your
yes,
background and all that stuff. Yeah. And
like
I
can say for sure these states, no, he doesn't have a license. But if you go that extra step and say, well, he doesn't have a license anywhere in the nation, then you're speculating and you don't have the evidence. So I'm going to go through state by state, even Hawaii, and just check. So, so that's that. For his degree, there's a problem when for his degree. Like he says he has a master's in forensic psychology, but for the research that I did, in order to be considered a forensic psychologist, it takes about 10 years and you need a doctorate. You need a doctorate to become a forensic psychologist, not just a master's. And again, I could be wrong about this, but as far as my research goes, this is what you need. You also need 1 to 2 years of supervised experience in order to gain a license, and you have to apply for a license. So in his interviews, he claims that he would have graduated in 78, but he took extra courses in like physiology and biology, and he graduated in
I think he said neurology too.
Yeah, he's full of shit.
I know.
But he graduated in 1980, which when you do the math, he should have graduated high school in 1973.
Okay.
And it takes about 10 years on average to become what is considered a forensic psychologist.
And that's interesting.
That would take you to 83. And he says he graduated in 80. So there's a problem with that. There's a definite problem with that.
Okay.
And then just across the board, he doesn't speak like a psychologist. He doesn't speak like an academic. He doesn't speak like he's trained. Not that I'm a psychologist, but I do talk to people that have degrees in psychology, and the difference is night and day. The terminology, whenever he talks about anything that has to do with psychology or psychiatry even, he says whether someone might be I don't even know how to say it, psychiatrically ill. That's all he says. He doesn't give you actual like symptoms or conditions, anything like that. He does not talk or speak like a psychologist.
Right.
He also gives the definition of a forensic psychologist as simply taking medical equipment into the courtroom. And when I look up that definition of a forensic psychologist, it's more of combining the law and psychology to see what makes like serial killers tick. So even his definition, his basic definition, doesn't jive.
Okay.
So I have big problems with that.
And also,
So-
he also says though too, he says that he calls them children of the paranormal, meaning kids that claim to be able to sense and feel and pick up on spirits, ghosts, whatever you want to call them. That they what did he say? Every 16 seconds they think about committing suicide, and
He gives that statistic,
and says that
Is there any stat out there that says
Not that I
any
could
of
find.
that?
I couldn't find anything like that.
But he says it, and then he says that they cut themselves, right? Because they feel dead inside, and when they see the blood, that's when they know they're alive. That's not.
So this,
if you're a psychologist, you're not going to say that. Like that's not.
the statistics you give, if you are a trained academic, you have citations, you have references, you can provide where you got your statistics from. And if Dave Schumacher's in the chat room, he is a scientist by trade, and he loves that kind of shit. And like every time we ask for where'd you get that, number, he's right on the ball with it. And maybe I'm biased because I gauge everyone else by what he does, because that's what I see. That's how it should be. Mr. Rigi brings up this statistic, and he doesn't give any source.
Right.
And he's also including just in his small group of what he considers a group of children, which is disturbing. It really is disturbing. I mean, and this is probably the main point that we're getting to here, is that he's encouraging parents to let him mentor their children with what looks like, what appears to be a fabricated background.
Right.
So that is disturbing by itself. That's red flags all over the fucking place.
Which is why I pushed this. I mean, it wasn't that,
right.
People are like, why are you so, and I said, because every podcast, every show, everything, he says, here's my number. He says that's how parents reach out to him to help their children. And he even claims that he helps children who are terminally ill to cross, to go to heaven, basically. And that he goes to these houses, to these people's houses, or the parents reach out to him. They hear him on a podcast, and he goes and stays with these people for, I don't know, a week or two, totally mooches. But then says, after the child passes away, he has the parents bathe the children, then dress them, and then has the parents carry the child out to the coroner or mortuaries.
I think I've heard what you said, and Taryn has told me what has been discussed behind the scenes and stuff like that. The only thing that I think has been truthful so far in this man's words is that he was with a paranormal group. Taryn, could you do me a favor a little bit and talk about your conversation with the group that he was with?
So it was, oh my gosh. Hold on.
I think it was
dead air. Talk. Dead air. I hate dead air.
I'm looking for the name of the group.
Oh my goodness. It was like Central Illinois Ghost Hunter.
Central Illinois or something like that.
Now, this is why you're looking at. Sorry, just while you're looking for that, because we are diving into evidence and stuff you're collecting. Someone's just asked in the chat, do we have any is there any substance of stories of parents actually reaching out to him yet? or is it just what he's saying at this time, or do we know that he has been to people's houses?
So he has sent me pictures of children, which I also think is disturbing, because you know, I don't want to see that stuff. I mean, I think it's those are private things, you know.
I think, and I've listened, and Taryn has sent me the audio. I listened to the conversation. I've heard that. And I don't know if you were trying to keep that secret or not. And if you were, I apologize for saying that. Yeah, it's too late. So the apology really, I'm sorry. Anyway, so the thing that I found most disturbing, and I think we have to be very careful here, is when it comes to children, is we don't want to cross that, because we don't really have any information if that's necessarily true. But at the same time, this man that you were talking to did say, I would never let this man around my kids. And that was from his mouth.
Yeah, that was from the so it was the first time that I actually went back. I think that was one of the 2015 ones where the show was saying that he was a member of this ghost hunting group. So I took a shot in the dark and I messaged them and said, do you know this person? You know, and they answered and they said, yes, he was a part of our group for a short time. He worked with him at some and he asked me why. So I told him, I said, I had him on my show, blah, blah, blah. And he said, wow. He's like, well, let's talk, because there's a lot of information I have, and it's easier to talk. So yes. And I did record it, because I did. I don't care. And he started out to say that he would, Robert would always approach him at their job and say, can I please come along with you to some, and he always wanted to go to the cases. It wound up that he always wanted to go to the cases that involved children. And he said that he would, at these houses, would tell the parents, you know, your child is a paranormal child, and here's my number, and I will work with your child, you know, and helping them understand, you know, what's going on in their head and the things that they're seeing and stuff like that. So he said that, you know, I did ask him if he knew for sure if he ever did go back and work with any of these people, or if he has names of somebody that I could reach out to find out and call the person. And he couldn't remember. He said it was like 15 years ago or something like that. But he did say, he said, I wouldn't trust him around my own child. And I said,
I just want to make sure that we're not implying anything.
I'm not implying anything.
Yeah, we need to make that clear. We're not saying, because people can take that assumption and run with it.
Right.
And we don't want people to. We just want people to understand that this is what Kenny and Taryn have found, and they're saying, and we want people out there that have had maybe a thought of calling Robert because they wanted to bring him to their home. This will basically tell you not to.
Because he has, there's nothing that he claims to, why somebody would call him in is everything's false. He has no degrees in anything. He's not,
we don't know. We don't know. I'm going to tell you off there.
We
have to be careful with this stuff.
Yeah.
We don't know if he has a degree or not. There is a possible educational background that he has. It's not in Florida, but we don't know for sure. And until we get that verification from the university, we don't know.
Yeah.
So just be careful.
There was a claim out there, and I'm going to ask you, and again, I know what you're going to say, you got to make sure, but there was actually a claim out there saying that he didn't even graduate high school.
So I don't know that.
So that's there's, and my point to that, there's so many things out there that are being said right now. Until you find the actual facts, we're only speculating at this point right now. So
yeah.
Well,
you really have to
lack of.
Yeah,
you have to search records, and again, like I said, I have a request in for the registrar of University of Florida, and I'm waiting for them to get back to me, specifically asking for a degree in forensic psychology and clinical social work, because that's what he says he has 2 masters in, one of each. So
He supposedly opened up a private practice too.
Yes, and that's a problem too, because if you're licensed, I mean that takes a longer time, and the time frame here doesn't fit. It simply doesn't fit.
Yeah.
So
and also with his jail time. I mean, he was in jail. I mean, like it
Now,
doesn't.
now, I don't know much about the FBI, obviously because I'm Canadian, and I don't really follow the FBI. But correct me if I'm wrong, please. If you're in the FBI and you have been in jail a lot, are you not allowed in the FBI?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know that either.
No idea about that.
I can find out.
From what I understand, if you've been arrested, there's no way you can be part of the FBI.
But we can. What we can do.
That's Mike. I'm just curious, not because of Rob. This as a general.
We can place him in certain areas at certain times because of his arrest record, and we know that he wasn't in Florida. And his major claim is that he was a criminal profiler in Florida for 35 plus years.
Mm-hmm.
So if you take that from 1980 and add 35 years, where are you at?
Yeah, exactly. Because I know here in Canada, the Canadian Spy Intelligence Service, if you have any kind of arrest or any type of jail time, you might as well just say goodbye to the Canadian Spy Intelligence Service, because you're not allowed. You're not allowed to.
Well, I found that.
Never bring you on. So
I did find this. It says the FBI, the website for the FBI, does indicate that if you've ever been convicted of a felony or have been a significant drug user, you will be unable to pass the top level security clearance required for agents. So if that's true, that's a Google search on the website. But yeah, it says no. So.
And that's the exact same here in Canada. And even if you want to be a cop, you're not. Yeah. If you have a criminal background,
that's your evidence right there. Yep. That's your ticket saying no, he could not have been, because we have records from 91 to 2001 or so.
Yeah. The only thing it states that you might get through if you have minor infractions, which unfortunately fraud and theft is not a minor infraction.
Yeah.
Neither is now claiming to be members of the police, which is also a new felony. So hopefully someone charges him.
My next question would be, because again, I don't know the laws in the States. If you have a criminal background, can you still have a medical license? I don't know. I
don't know. Like if we're going to push into questions about the law, I'm not your guy.
Okay.
I don't know. And I'm not going to speculate on that.
Yeah. I just don't know. Maybe that's something you might have looked up, and that's why I'm asking. So
haven't got that far, because this is a big rabbit hole. This is a very deep rabbit hole that I went down.
Mm-hmm.
So thanks, Taryn. Your fault.
Sorry. I love you.
Yeah, but you know what? Do you love it though? Are you? I know you're not loving the situation, because it's horrible, but you love doing the research and finding the stuff, and finding the false claims and stuff like that, because obviously this man is I think it's all safe to say this man has some issues, and he has some real issues.
Yeah,
and
there's some issues,
I don't even know.
You can't, with all the claims that he's made, there's no reason to trust him. I mean, he's saying that he's very, very good friends with priests that have no idea who he is. He's saying he's licensed in so many states where there is no record of his license. That's huge. That is huge. That's somebody that you don't want to deal with. And
you definitely don't want to be responsible for him being on your show and a parent reaching out to him from your show and things and going on there. And that was my biggest thing with this whole thing. Like I said, I reached out to him after I found out, and I said, we have 3 options here. I was like, either you go away and completely come clean, or show me proof. And if you can't, then I'm going to let people know.
Yeah. I would like to find out if the fact he's gone on record, which these podcasts they're a record. He's gone on record to say that he's worked in the FBI, which that even if it's past tense, does that still count as impersonation of a police officer or law enforcement?
He's an imposter for sure.
Which
That's something we get into after the show.
I need to find out because I want to know.
Because I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah,
and because he's way past the point of even being associated with them anymore.
Yeah.
So I wonder if there would still be legal grounds on this man being arrested for impersonating somebody he said he was working for the FBI. It's just, I think it's just gotten to the point right now where I think he is so lost on what he's been saying over the last 6 or 7 years that there's absolutely no way he can get out of this. And I just don't understand why he continues doing these shows and people continue supporting him.
Because he doesn't think people like Kenny are on his trail. That's why. Because
he knows. I told him.
Yeah.
Well, he knows now.
He knows now. Yeah, he knows. Taryn reached out to him. I reached out to other podcasts that have reached out to him to have him back on to straighten the record. And he's refused.
And he blocks me. He blocked me.
You. Yesterday, I called him. I called the number, and I left a message for him, asking him to call me back because I had some questions about his interviews. I'm still waiting for him to call back. And if he does, we're going to have a conversation. I mean, I'm going to try to have a conversation. I don't know if it'll work, but I'll do what I can to clarify what he's saying. And if he can offer proof, that's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. I'll totally promote that.
And I told him, I said, I will publicly apologize to him and everyone that, if he can show me something.
But the problem with this gentleman is that he did like a shotgun effect where he hit so many podcasts so frequently and he told the same stories. Nobody had a chance to check on him. And this is the lesson to be learned from this.
Absolutely.
Is that when you have a guest on, and I know it's hard. Some of them, like one host in particular, said that it's a one-man show. And I know most podcasts are a one-man show or one-person show, that it's hard to fact check people. But this in particular demonstrates the need to fact check. Make sure you know who you're having on. Absolutely. Because if you have someone, even me, like we were joking the other night on Taryn's show, Brian, you were like, oh, I hope he doesn't look me up and stuff like that. Yeah, fuck yeah, I looked you up. I know who I'm dealing with. And if you're interviewing someone, if they're making all these claims, extraordinary claims, psychic, medium, interviewing serial killers, which grows every time he fucking tells a story, being licensed, professional, all these real big claims, don't take it at face value. Fact check that fucker. Right. Make sure that they're really legit. Because when you don't, unfortunately, this is what happens. People have him on a show. Other hosts see him on that show and say, oh, I want to have him on my show because, he's good at prying. He's good at bringing the emotion. He's a good actor. I'll give him that. He knows when to turn the waterworks on.
Yeah. And the thing is, I had him on because for the forensic psychology. I wanted to know about all that, and I didn't care. He said he was a medium, a psychic medium, all this and that. I didn't give a shit about any of that. I wanted to have him on for the forensic psychology part and the criminal part of that.
And listen, like Taryn, you and I have listened to multiple shows of his. Mm-hmm. He's never brought up anything that really had to do with psychology.
I know.
He avoids the question. Yep. When people ask him directly about his background in that, he changes the subject or he continues with his story, his pre-planned routine story. He goes right back to it.
I know.
He avoids the question and he doesn't give you any details. That's a big red flag.
Yep. Yeah. Because, I was listening to the podcasts, other ones, and people, and they ask good questions, these people are asking good questions like, oh, so when you interviewed Ted Bundy, which he was told wasn't supposed to be recorded. And I think I found out, and anybody can correct me if I'm wrong, because I think what I read or I saw was that there were only 3 journalists that were in to interview. 2. How many?
2.
2.
There were 2 journalists. Yeah.
And he wasn't.
The execution.
Oh, was there? Oh, really? Okay.
There was 2 at the execution. There was 1. And one allowed to interview him.
Okay.
and he had to go undercover. So there's
Oh,
more
wow.
to that than he just didn't say I was a journalist. He had to actually pretend to be part of the defense team
Right.
to be
Right.
allowed to go in.
Right. And
Oh.
so people ask him when they're on, oh, did you, when you were interviewing him or when you went to his execution, because he said he was invited to and went to his execution, Ted Bundy, did you, were being a medium or a psychic medium, did you sense these, demons around him or whatever? And he laughs and he goes, well, what do you think? And then he just starts talking about something else. Right. Then he talks about, he has brought up, thankfully, in his mind what happened at the execution, because even that was false. He said smoke came out of his head, but it came out of his leg, not out of his head.
Right.
Yeah, and also he said he came into the chamber. Correct me if I'm wrong. Was Ted Bundy not executed in his jail cell?
He was. They
He was
said
in
he
a
was
chamber. No, he was in a.
I thought I
It
read
was in
something.
a cell. They said it
Was
was
it?
in a cell.
Was
It was in a cell. It was in a
thought it was
cell
not
that
his-
he
I don't know if
was
it was-
Look it up.
executed.
Yeah.
So they actually
Um,
brought the whatever it was, but he said he saw him come in the chamber. But I read somewhere where it was actually in a cell, which I'm trying to figure out how they would have 42 people watching if he's in a cell. That's what doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. I don't know.
My main detail was what Taryn mentioned. Like,
Yeah.
Mr. Rigi says that a puff of smoke came out of his head.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
when
I
you
read that too.
The journalist, because the journalist that was there, Gabrielle Bruni, he posted in Esquire. So he wrote an article in Esquire magazine, and he talks about it. And he says that the only thing that was there, the only indication, was a puff of smoke that came from his leg,
Right.
his one
Yeah.
thigh. And there were other details, last words, the hood kind of thing. There's a lot of details that don't match up with what
Yeah.
Mr. Rigi is saying.
Yeah, because Mr. Riggy was saying that he was telling the superintendent to fuck off. Well, in actual fact, what it says on the record, what I saw, he actually told him he actually said, tell all my family and friends that I love them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he also says that in all his letters and talking with Ted Bundy and how he went to the interview, how he was like telling him why he killed all these people and or the women, and why he did what he did, and this and that, when in fact Ted Bundy didn't even admit to killing anybody until 3 days before his execution.
There's a lot. You can learn a lot when you start delving into it, and I really didn't want to, because the dude's a douchebag.
Yeah.
Don't want to know about him. But the details are wrong. And just the fact that the year that he says that Mr. Rigi says that he interviewed him was the beginning of the year, January of 1980, is when he had his second death sentence. But that never comes up.
Right.
That never comes up in his interview. And the other thing is what you mentioned, Taryn, the letters. Mr. Rigi claims that he has all these letters. He was pen pals with Ted Bundy and with other serial killers, but he's never produced it. He said, "Oh yeah, I'll come on, and I'll come on again," because he likes to set up the next interview. But he says, "Oh, I'm going to come on and I'll show you all the letters." He never does. So by all means, if you can show me the letters, and we can verify them, because that's
actually, I believe he said he was going to come on another show. I'm not going to get into the name of the show. He was going to come on another show and produce the letters, and he ended up canceling because he said he had to see a doctor, and the doctor told him that he couldn't speak.
Yeah.
So he had to cancel that podcast.
Bullshit.
Which is really weird. Why would you need a doctor to tell you can't speak? Surely you should just need to know that.
And he did go on another show. And
there's a letter. That's all you need to do.
I just want to let you know I brought a doctor's note.
Yeah, I have a doctor's note. I can't talk. So
he was
therefore,
supposed to go on. He was supposed to go on a show and do readings, like free readings, medium psychic readings or whatever. And he canceled that one because he said he was diagnosed with mouth cancer and was on pain medicine, and he didn't want to do readings under the influence, so he canceled that.
Yeah, and I do want to add to that. Now, he was talking the truth when he said he was part of a paranormal group. What he doesn't mention, he was kicked out of that group.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And the reason he was kicked out of that group is, I'm not going to get into that, but he was kicked out of the group.
Well, that's important because he
well, it
claims
is
he doesn't
important.
charge
He
people.
charged somebody. He charged somebody, and he goes on record on several times that he doesn't charge anyone.
Right. And he was so the guy in the group said that they were at a private case, a private investigation. They were doing an EVP session, and apparently the woman was listening, and they caught what she thought was the voice of her husband that had just passed away. And she got all upset, crying. They kind of like, ended the investigation, but we're still at the house. And Robert said, "Oh, you need fresh air, fresh air." Took her outside, walked down with her, and then said, "I'll do a reading for you." He charged her $40, said all this stuff. And I guess the next day she called this guy that runs the group and said, your team member charged me $40 and said they were, said all this stuff to me, but it's all the information out of his obituary that's in the newspaper. I want my money back. She was all upset. She said she was going to, tell everybody about how unethical their group is and everything like this and that. But yeah, he got, that's why he got kicked out. I mean, that's horrible. First of all, to charge somebody on a private case and just totally taking advantage of somebody who's vulnerable and grieving, and he's lying about it and taking money. So yeah, he's a piece of shit.
I think, and before Kenny comes back, the thing that really, I have to be honest, the thing that really, it's the little thing. There's one little thing that he always does, and I have to be honest, it super, super, super bothers me. It really bothers me. Every time he says brothers and sisters, it has got to be the most annoying thing that I've ever seen, because if this man claims that everybody's brothers and sisters, why is he defrauding somebody between the year of 1991 to 2001 of $310,000?
Right.
I'm sorry. If you believe in brothers and sisters, why are you stealing from people?
And fraud,
Came back at the right time, Kenny.
Sorry. I had to go take a pee break, and I come back and I hear brothers and sisters. I'm like, oh, here we go.
And another thing on my show, which is also making me ill, like to my son. He kept on wanting me to share the pictures of the children that he sent me. These are children that are underage, obviously, and they probably are 12 and under. They're in hospital gowns. He sent me one picture that he claims that this child just passed away. This is 10 minutes after the child passed away. And he's wanting me to share these photos on during the show. And I was just ignoring it. And then finally I just said, I don't know how to do it. I'm not doing it because I didn't want to do it. I wasn't going to share those photos.
At the end of the day, and like Lex will say, this man is a piece of garbage.
I wouldn't say that. It's too
He's
polite.
a piece of garbage.
He's a piece of shit. Piece of shit.
Boomer's watching in YouTube, and he said, "What a piece of shit! I just found his Facebook page. It sounds like he wants to be the next Chip Coffee, and he has 85 followers."
Why would anybody want to be Chip Coffee? That's my question.
Just stop.
So
I just want to quickly say to Hafen Paranormal in the chat, who's asked if they can ask 2 questions. If you put your questions in the chat, and if we can answer them for you, we shall do that for you. No problem. Just pop the question. If we get to the question, we will answer it for you.
So Hafen Paranormal, I hope they will allow me. They're one of the groups that I actually talked to. They are associated, I believe, with who was through the source, talking with the source.
Talking with the source.
yeah,
That's one of the podcasts.
this Hafner, they actually posted in Huntophobia Canada page today.
Yeah,
Their logo and your logo looks nice. I'm glad you guys did that. So I have no problems with people posting their logos and all that stuff in my page. So
he just said talking with the source. So they are associated. So they're the ones I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong,
Wrong.
Haffern, but I think that they were the ones that asked him about the arrests, and he denied it to them.
Oh, crazy.
So happy that they're watching because
Sorry,
I've worked
I'm
very
not-
closely with them.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that Boomer D. When you say for real, Brian, what are you referring to?
Yes, this is about Robert
Yes.
Reedy.
Oh, okay,
Yes.
okay,
Yes.
okay.
And I want to throw in here a few things. One is that I did reach out to the host of, I think it's Sasquatch Odyssey. That was a podcast that he was on,
Okay.
that Mr. Reedy was on. I reached out to him, and I think they were talking specifically about the exorcism of Kevin. And I provided information and contact information for the priest and said, look, I talked to the priest. This is what I learned. Here's the number you can reach him at and verify yourself. That host was really cool. He explained that he was a one-man show and he didn't have time to actually investigate each guest, which I get, but I still would like people to change. But he did reach out to Mr. Reedy and offered him the chance to come on the show again to quote unquote straighten the record. And Mr. Reedy declined.
Right.
So
And now look, Haffern just said okay
Yeah.
because he told me that he had never been arrested when they confronted him. So
Yeah, you know what? That's very easy to check. You just have to go to Chicago and look up the courts or whatever that website is.
onto
and you can just
Illinois.
type in-
You
Yeah.
go onto the Illinois website. I think it's illinois.gov, but you go on there and look for criminal records. You can put in his name and his birth date, and it comes up with his not only the list of infractions, but again, his mugshot is there with 4 of them. So you can definitely tell it is him. There's no denying it. I mean, well, obviously he does deny it, but
yeah, he does.
it's him. It's
Were
him.
you able to find any information out about the fact that it looks like in some of those clips or some of those posts that I've read, he actually at one time went under the name of Wright?
I think that might have been I've only found that once, and I think that might have been
Yeah.
maybe a typo or
Okay.
something from
So
somebody.
when you do searches on people, they're pulling from different records that are handwritten, and once in a while, and we see this a lot with ancestral records, where the writing is so bad that it's hard to tell what they're saying, and oftentimes it comes out. So when you have the difference between Riggy and Wright, which is I believe what you found, Taryn, Robert Wright, it might be just the interpretation of the
writing. Okay.
Yeah.
So Heffern is asking this. Have you found any information? And you know what? This is kind of private information that I'm sure nobody.
No, he
would
has
be
said
online.
it on podcasts.
But has he said this? Like, I don't know. Like he said he's had cancer.
Yeah,
I don't
I
think there's
just
any way
remember
to
I
find
said
out if he had.
Oh, I haven't-
Well, that's hard to do, and that's something I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
I'm not really interested in going down because
that's what
I mean, if he does, by all means, I understand what happens. My family has been touched by cancer a lot, and I do a lot of charity work to try to help with that. So I get it. If he legitimately does, then by all means, he has my sympathy, and I hope he gets better. I hope he comes through it. But I can't confirm or deny that.
No,
I don't know if he has or if he's just saying that.
Yeah.
I think because I hadn't heard it, I listened to so many podcasts and watched so many, and it wasn't until he had to come on to do a reading was when he said about the mouth cancer.
Okay.
And who knows? Maybe he does. I don't know. And again, he has my sympathy if he does. I'm not going to fault him for that. But unfortunately, when we look at the wide view of everything that he's claimed and everything that has come to be false, that we can back up with documentation that has been false. I don't know if this is a ploy to gain more sympathy,
Exactly.
or not. But again, I want to stress, if he really does, he has my sympathy. That's it.
I think people can see that the issue. This is the issue with being a compulsive liar, is this is what stuff like this gets called into question, because you're, as we've proven tonight in the last hour, the evidence we have of that he is lying about everything else, it does make you question stuff like that. And you don't ever want to question someone's integrity when it comes to that, because you'd like to see, like, if you lie about that, you're literally the worst person on the planet. So hopefully he's not lying about that. And if he has had it, again, I agree with Ken. If he does have it, then obviously we hope he gets through it. I can understand why people do question its authenticity, though.
You know what? Where I have a real problem with all of this, and this is for me, when I found out early on in all of this, when I found it, and I have to be honest, it really, and I'm going to say this, and I don't say this very often on the show, it really fucking pissed me off. I have a sister that was hit by a car when she was 5 years old, and she's been in a wheelchair for 40 years. Okay? And to find out this man stole from a person that had a disability, to me, I was ready to throw my laptop against the wall, thinking that it was him. And that's where it really bothered me, because if my sister ever went through that and some man came into her life and stole, $310,000 from her, and I'm going to be perfectly honest, and you can check it, Robert. My sister in 1981, because she was hit by the car in 79, she got a settlement of a lot of money from the government that by the time she hit 18 years old, it was going to be over $20 million. Mm-hmm. Okay. So if this man came to her and did what he did to this other person, this man wouldn't be alive. And I'm telling you that right now, this man would not be alive. And that I didn't even know what to say after that. I was like,
well, then that whole thing with that little girl, like the girl that went missing.
Yeah.
That's another. Yeah.
So
that's something. I don't know how much more you want to go with.
Yeah,
this.
We can go on and on. So say that. And I think we're going to, because we've been going 3 hours here. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you to everyone in the chat, by the way, who has stuck with us this entire
exactly.
show.
Like,
there's a lot of people that are here the whole time.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And it's been a very important, but very good, interesting show, this one. So
good.
Yeah. And
not because of you, Kenny. You're the worst.
Whatever. Shut up.
And it's just like I was saying, like I almost, when I found that out, when Taryn told me and when Eldon told me and Brian told me about that, my laptop was going to go against the wall, because I was absolutely livid when I found that out. And if this man had ever done that to my sister, he wouldn't be alive today.
Yeah. Boomer says I would hobble that piece of shit.
So anyhow,
but yeah,
it's just all in all. I mean, I'll save the other story for maybe next time or
yeah.
whatever.
You know what? You're coming on Taryn's show in March.
Yeah.
So
March 9th,
you know what? You guys can go through all of that. And I think people are going to want to watch that show, because I'm sure you have a lot more that you would like to say.
And I'll
have a lot more.
I'll have more information by then.
Oh yeah, that's true too.
Yeah.
That's true.
When
is that date? When is that date, Taryn?
March 9th, right?
Yeah, March 9th.
Yeah.
Perfect. So look out for that, guys. And this has been great. But you were going to say one more thing that Kenny, you were going to say one more thing. Yeah, about the girl or
about the Jessica. So he made a comment. He told a story about remote viewing, because somebody brought it up, and he definitely has a habit of, when a host brings up a new superpower, he has it. Right. From that show on, he has it. And we've seen that. Like, he says the next show after that, he mentions that power. So they were talking about remote viewing, and that he one time had this vision of a girl named Jessica who was kidnapped, and she was in Florida, and that he called a police department telling them, like, I know where this girl is, and you need to get to her because she's still alive. And it was in Ocaz or Ocar. There was a national forest in Florida.
Mhm.
I don't have the name right in front of me, but he called this police department and said she was there. You need to go check. She's near a well. And he claims that the police department hung up on him and that he called back. And again, he told them that he was a criminal profiler with the state of Florida and that you need to listen to me. And again, they hung up on him.
Was this in is it Ocala?
Yes, that was it. That's it. So his story, when he tells a story about some of the details, and he actually mentions the first name, Jessica. So a simple search comes up with the case of Jessica Lunsford,
Which I remember. I remember that being.
It was in 2005. It was a nationwide case where she was missing, and there was a nationwide search on where she could be, what happened to her. And unfortunately, it was a convicted sex offender that lived in the same town, but frequently visited or stayed at a house. I think it was his sister.
Was a trailer. It was a trailer.
Yeah, it was like 200 yards.
Yeah.
200 yards from where the girl lived.
Mm-hmm.
He had kidnapped her. And long story short, because I don't want to go into the details.
Yeah.
Her body was found in a shallow grave right outside the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
And he does this interview where Mr. Rigi turns on the waterworks and says that he knew where she was and he could have saved her if they only listened to her. So basically, he uses this tragedy of this young lady and he tries to capitalize on it for his own selfish needs.
Yep.
And I can't stand that. It's ridiculous. He offers no proof or nothing that says that he actually contacted the police department. And even the police department that he says he contacted was the wrong one.
Right.
It wasn't where the child was living or the sheriff's department that was actively investigating the case.
Yeah.
He didn't call that one. He called a different one.
Well, and I also know my brothers are police officers. One of my uncles is a sheriff in Berks County. You know, they have to follow any lead.
Yes.
Whether they can't just hang up when there's when there's an active missing child and they have no idea where she's at on anything. Like they have to follow a lead and until it's a dead end. They don't just hang the phone up if somebody says
right.
And this is how so many of these psychic people end up on these police cases. There's a woman I saw do it before, where she was telling someone that their daughter was dead or something like that, and then the reporter gave her a picture of her as a child and was like, "This girl's missing. Can you find her?" And she's like, "Oh, she's been dead for a while now." And she's like, "Really? Because I'm sat right in front of you."
Yeah.
And that's how these people get onto these things, is because the police have to take their every lead and do something with it. Whether or not they go that far is a different matter. But yeah, someone, Erin in the chat said, they're required by law to take the report.
Yeah.
Right.
And they have to
follow the lead. They have to.
And I asked him why. I said, why wouldn't they listen to you? And he said, and this is on chat, so I do have it. And he gave me this long thing that, well, you have to remember back in the day, it was a very conservative. He brought up it being a conservative area, highly KKK area, and that he's gay. So
nothing to do with it.
So I said, wait a minute.
Wow.
I'm like, you're telling me that they hung up on you because you're gay?
So I wish I could find a report that says how many gay people, black people, or anybody helped with the police in any cases around the same time, because I'm sure that there was some cases where people of color were asked to talk to the police and weren't discriminated against because they needed to help the police, and same with maybe some gay people, lesbians, anyone went to the police at some point in that time area and reported something. So that's nuts.
It's ridiculous.
I can't believe that. When you get called out, pull the discrimination card then, so you know that no one can question it.
Oh, and he also said, and they had already been there in that area, and it would have made them look like idiots or fools if they if it was like
They
known that,
retrace, yeah, if they
yeah,
retrace their steps and search an area that they already searched, and that's
right,
bullshit because that happens. You
yeah,
get
I
a new
mean,
tip, you get
And
new information that says, "Hey, maybe we should recheck this."
I can
Yeah,
give you one example.
well,
The
well,
man.
and I'll be honest, I'll tell you, I read about it, and the police actually said they went to where she was at, and she was
right,
alive when they knocked on the door. They just didn't go in,
Mm,
right.
that's a shame.
that must
and
be the
yeah,
most heartbreaking thing in those cases.
right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if they, I mean, if they already made themselves look like, you know what I mean? Like, there's nothing else you could really say after that. I
And I
mean,
think when
Yeah.
it, I think the scale of searching and all that stuff is a lot different for a child than it is for an adult.
well, it
Am I
sucks
wrong?
that you need that,
So,
they do need,
I've been on searches. I've been on one case where I mean it was part of a project, if you will, where I was investigating a real time case, a missing person case, that was covered by psychics, and I participated in the search for the bodies. So I've been out there and I've seen how many people are involved and what it takes, and getting the lecture by the state trooper that comes out and tells you what you're doing, how you're going to do it. There's a lot involved, and it's weird. You know, like I've seen dead bodies. I worked in the medical field for a long time. I know what a dead body looks like, but I was still worried about walking
finding
up
it.
on
Yeah.
this
yeah, for
person, you
sure.
know,
For
and
sure.
finding her.
Yeah.
So that really pisses me off when I hear stuff like this, where the story is exploited. Like this Mr. Rigi, according to his account, he only called the police department twice, and then he cries about them not listening to him.
Right.
You fucking piece of shit. Call other police departments. Call the family. Make a big stink about it. If you seriously know where a child is that's held captive and you think is in danger because they're held captive, so they're obviously in danger of being killed, you call everyone. You keep calling. You don't stop.
Right.
You don't stop after
Right.
2 and then hide in the corner and cry like a baby. You don't do that shit.
I don't know, I think
Oh,
you
Getting
start
so pissed
you
off.
start a rally. You put on any. You
Yeah.
get people next to you. Go next door. You tell them, ring the police department and tell them about this because they're not answering me. And then you keep going. Like I wouldn't have stopped ringing that phone.
no, I would
Yeah.
have went there. I would have went to the police.
Yeah, well, that's what I was thinking. I would have said I would have gone there to the police department and
Mm.
yelled out loud, "I have information. Why are you not listening?" Anyways, you know what? We could probably go on for like 3 hours
Yeah. Yeah.
about
Okay,
this.
so
We're already-
can we let's sum this up in one go then.
Okay.
Kenny,
Go
I
ahead.
want Kenny and Taryn, if we can try. What would you want to say to anyone who's been contacted by this guy over the last few weeks? I mean, I've just Googled his name now to see all the podcasts, and he's done a fair few recently. But what would you just say to anyone that's had him on the show that feels a little bit upset that they're finding out about this? And is there anything you want to say going forward, Kenny? Like, are you going to publish this story, and are you going to maybe try and get legal involved?
I'll go first because mine's going to be shorter, but I'm just going to say that I thought about just maybe doing like a little bit, a short little not scheduled show apologizing to people that watch that show because I did not do my homework. I feel, I feel bad that, because I had people in there talking about how amazing they thought he was. Then he reached out to my friends Pam and Steve, who wanted to, that they wanted to, because of him helping sick children, and they do this Gettysburg Battlefield Bash every year that they they raise money for sick children. So they wanted him to come to this event, and they were, like things were happening because he was on my show, and so I reached out to them first, then Kenny and this night. So, but I want to apologize to everybody for not doing my homework. 1, 2, going forward, I'm going to research everybody. I learned a lesson from it, and it sucks because I felt stupid. I felt really stupid having this man on my show and finding all this stuff out, but I did what I felt I had to do. I had a gut feeling about it, and I did it, and it didn't stop. I couldn't stop because I'm worried about the children that, him reaching out to get into these homes to, prey on the vulnerable. And I'm not saying the children thing. I'm not trying to indicate or, put anybody in his head, that there's something with kids, and it's the fact that he's preying off of people that are, either grieving or vulnerable, because they're in this situation that they're in, it's almost like he's like using scare tactics for parents as well, to get into these homes.
Yeah. Final thoughts.
Final
thoughts.
What?
Taryn. Final thoughts.
That wasn't short.
Sorry.
Final thought. What I think what you're saying is you're now going to do your research, and you're pissed off and you want to expose this man, and I think you've done a pretty good job of it today. And I really appreciate you coming up and taking the time, because I know this has been long for you as well. And yeah, so Kenny, you?
But see, now that Half from Paranormal just said he reached out to someone on our podcast and added the woman on Facebook. So he's reaching out to people.
He's still doing it. Kenny, your voice has turned into a female voice. That's crazy.
A woman that was needing help.
Yeah.
Basically.
Well, hopefully, Haffen turned them away from him.
My final thoughts are: do your homework. Even if you do a one-man show, one-woman show, one-person show, whatever it is, do your homework. Take 5-10 minutes, and take this as a lesson. Take a few minutes, search.
Mm-hmm.
If it's an unknown person that you're having on, and you only know them from other podcasts, but they present themselves as having academic credentials, ask for them. There's no harm in it. If someone legitimately has a degree in something, they're not going to, freak out and get pissed off because you asked for proof.
Right.
They're not going to do that. They're going to be like, they're going to be proud. They're going to be like, yeah, here's my diploma. There you go.
Yeah.
If you see them on TV, if there's a prominent doctor or scientist that you have seen on several programs, it's usually a fair bet that they do have credentials, because they will be checked out. But feel free to do it anyway. If they claim to have a license or licensed in certain states or multiple states that changes every fucking time they do a podcast, feel free to check. You can go online and check for psychology license and lots of medical licenses. You can check it. It's for free. Doesn't cost anything. Every state you can do it. In the United States, you can do that. Verify.
And I hope he's watching. I hope
he is too. And
I
if
hope
he
he
is,
knows that every show that he goes on, I am going to contact the people and I will let them know. Every single one.
Yeah. And you should.
He should. I mean, and if you're listening, Robert, call me. Call me back. Answer the questions. Show your proof. Show your fucking letters. Show your diploma. Show your license. Show all this stuff. Have Father Michael call me and tell me that he's a very, very good friend of mine, like you said he was, and he's not.
Right.
Do all this stuff. But this is a good lesson for everyone that is in the paranormal and any other hobby. Do your research.
Yep.
Take the time. 10 minutes. Literally, after Taryn called me or messaged me, it was 10 minutes that we knew something was up. We knew something was wrong with this. And we delved into it. And that's all it takes. Yeah. Don't have people on just to have people on, because all you're doing is promoting the bullshit. And you're promoting really bad stuff and potentially opening the door to someone being in danger.
Right.
Remember, and this is what it was about. And that's why we did this segment, because we want people to know this man. And I'm not saying he could be potentially dangerous. And I guess at the end of all this, just know who you're dealing with and having on your show, like Kenny said. But you know what, guys and girls? I want to thank you for being on today's show, and it's been a very
long,
insightful. What's that?
Apparently,
is this the longest show?
Apparently, I look like shit.
This is the longest one, yeah.
This has been the longest show, and I think the longest we've ever gone is 152 minutes.
So, hang on, we've given our longest show to a fucking skeptic?
Yeah. that was good. That was good. But funny. That was funny. And again, Kenny, you know what? You've been a great guest, and I
Thank you.
enjoy
Awesome.
listening to
I
you.
love him.
I enjoy listening to you. And you know what? And this is why we do this show, because I enjoy listening to people. I enjoy learning about people. And the few conversations we've had in Messenger, you're a very funny man. Obviously, you're a funny man here. The funny comment today, that was funny. I'm not going to say what that comment. Well, I guess I could say what that comment. I said, I told Kenny I was sending him the link, and he said, "Oh, the show's today." And so
What?
I thought that
Today?
was yeah.
6
I
o'clock,
thought-
right?
yeah. I thought that was funny, and I think you're good at what you do, and I've watched your show. I like your show. I saw your show on Friday, and I want people to go down below where his links are and click on his link.
There's a
go
couple
over
people
and-
that said they subscribed to Kenny's
Oh,
show.
thank you. Thank you. I appreciate
there
that.
you go, and that's why we do the show, so people can get to know their guests or our guests. So, anyways, you guys have a wonderful rest of the evening. I'm sure you have things to do. Now,
3 hours later.
yeah, 3 hours later. But thanks again, guys. I really appreciate it. And Taryn, thank you for coming up. And thank you for coming up. And just to let everybody know, and if they don't know, and if you're new in the room, Taryn is our producer for Through the Lens. And we are now, this time next week, well, 3 hours earlier, next week, we will be now streaming on DN TV. So I was about to say BB3 TV. So we're now going to be streaming on DN TV, and hopefully you guys will go over and check them out and give them a follow. So thank you again, guys, for coming on today.
Thanks,
and
Kenny.
It was very insightful. It was a lot of fun, and I had a great time. Okay.
Likewise.
Awesome.
Hi, guys.
All right.
Oh Lord. There we go. I'm gonna knock Kenny down first. There you go.
Lovely.
Wow.
Powerful show tonight.
Yeah, it was great. And again, we just want people to understand what this man has done and what he's been lying about. And like I said earlier, I think this guy is potentially dangerous. And you decide what you want to do with it. If he's on your friend list, or if you know him, you take this for what it's worth. And if you want to continue being friends with him, go right ahead. We're not telling you not to be, but just understand that this guy's lied about almost everything. Obviously, not everything has been found yet, but yeah, it's just really disappointing, and I talked to him several occasions, and he messaged me, and it's just really disappointing, honestly, for me. So I'm going to say my goodbyes. We're definitely going to see you guys next week. We do have a great guest for next week, and hopefully you'll join us. And again, thanks for everybody that came on the show today. I also want to thank Drew that came on the show today for the first few minutes of the show. And if you guys missed anything, go back and watch the replay. It was a great show, and Kenny had a lot of information, and he's just a great guy. So I'm going to say my goodbyes.
Love it. And I just want to say thank you again to Drew, Taryn, and of course Kenny for coming on the show today. Kenny, despite the fact we might disagree on whether or not the paranormal exists, I'm very happy I got to speak to you today, and I subscribe to your channel so I can keep an eye on what you do next. And I also want to thank you for your time today. Thank you to everyone in the chat for joining in. It's been a very eventful episode. And when you do share this video back out, let people know it's worth watching the whole show. I know it's a very long one, but please push out this. It was a very fulfilling, worthwhile 3.5 hours. So for that, and I've got one more thing to say, and this is to Mr. Robert Riggy himself. Fuck you.
Oh.